Hey, curious minds, get ready for mind-blowing facts about animals, science, and more. From surprising talents to bizarre discoveries, this video is packed with fun you won't believe. Sit back, relax, and let's dive into the unexpected.
A group of flamingos is called a flamboyance, a term that perfectly captures their striking appearance and social nature. These elegant, long-legged birds are known for their vivid pink and orange hues, which come from the carotenoid-rich foods they consume, such as algae and small crustaceans. When gathered in large numbers, their synchronized movements and graceful postures create a dazzling visual spectacle, making the word flamboyance a fitting descriptor. Flamingos are highly social creatures, often forming flocks of thousands in the wild. This grouping serves multiple purposes, including protection from predators, easier access to food sources, and cooperative parenting. Within their flamboyance, flamingos engage in unique behaviors such as synchronized courtship dances, which involve head flagging, wing salutes, and intricate group movements. These displays not only strengthen bonds but also help individuals attract mates. The term flamboyance itself originates from the word flamboyant, meaning showy, elaborate, or strikingly colorful, qualities that flamingos undeniably possess. Beyond their aesthetic appeal, flamingos play a crucial role in their ecosystems, helping maintain the health of wetland environments. By stirring up the mud with their feet and filtering food through their specialized beaks, they contribute to nutrient cycling and water clarity. Whether wading through shallow lagoons or taking flight in a breathtaking display of pink, a flamboyance of flamingos is a true marvel of nature.
Dolphins are incredibly intelligent marine mammals with complex social structures, and one of their most fascinating behaviors is their ability to assign names to one another through unique whistles. Researchers have discovered that each dolphin develops a distinct signature whistle early in life, which serves as its personal identifier, much like a human name. These whistles are unique to each individual and remain consistent over time, allowing dolphins to recognize and address each other even in large pods. This ability was first studied in bottlenose dolphins, which use these signature whistles to maintain group cohesion and communication. Dolphins will call out the specific whistle of another individual to get their attention, a behavior that suggests a high level of cognitive ability and self-awareness. Studies have even shown that dolphins can remember the signature whistles of former pod members for decades, highlighting their exceptional memory and social bonds. The use of signature whistles is particularly useful in the open ocean, where visibility can be limited. Unlike many land animals that rely on scent or vision to recognize one another, dolphins depend on sound, which travels efficiently underwater. This sophisticated communication system allows them to coordinate activities such as hunting, protecting the group from predators, and reuniting after being separated. Beyond just identifying individuals, dolphins also engage in vocal mimicry, meaning they can learn and replicate the whistles of close companions. This behavior is most commonly observed between mothers and calves or between strong social bonds within the pod. Scientists believe that this form of vocal learning demonstrates an advanced level of social intelligence, further emphasizing the complexity of dolphin societies. Dolphins' ability to use names suggests that they have one of the most advanced communication systems in the animal kingdom. While their language is still being studied, the discovery of signature whistles has provided valuable insight into the cognitive and social capabilities of these remarkable creatures.
Owls are known for their striking forward-facing eyes, but unlike humans and many other animals, their eyes are not spherical. They are tubular in shape. This unique structure gives owls excellent depth perception and allows them to see incredibly well in low-light conditions, making them exceptional nocturnal hunters. However, this specialized adaptation comes with a trade-off. Owls cannot move their eyes within their sockets as humans can. Instead, they must rely on their highly flexible necks to change their field of vision. To compensate for their fixed gaze, owls have evolved an extraordinary ability to rotate their heads up to 270 degrees in either direction without damaging their blood vessels or spinal cord. This is made possible by several anatomical adaptations, including extra vertebrae in their necks, 14 compared to a human's 7, unique blood vessel routing to prevent circulation cut off, and a specialized bone structure that allows for such extreme motion. This ability enables them to scan their surroundings with minimal movement, helping them remain undetected by prey and predators alike. The tubular shape of an owl's eyes also enhances its binocular vision, meaning both eyes focus on the same object, providing excellent depth perception. This is crucial for hunting, as owls rely on pinpoint accuracy when swooping down on unsuspecting prey in the dark. Their large eyes also allow more light to enter, improving their night vision, which is further enhanced by a high concentration of rod cells in their retinas. Despite their impressive eyesight, owls rely on more than just vision for hunting. Their exceptional hearing, aided by asymmetrical ear placement, allows them to detect even the faintest sounds of movement in complete darkness. Combined with their silent flight and flexible necks, the tubular shape of their eyes makes them one of nature's most effective nocturnal predators.
Sloths, despite their slow-moving and seemingly laid-back nature, possess an astonishing ability. They can hold their breath for up to 40 minutes, which is even longer than dolphins. This impressive skill is a result of their unique physiology, specifically their slow metabolism and specialized breathing adaptations. While most people associate sloths with tree-dwelling life, they are actually excellent swimmers, and this breath-holding ability helps them survive in aquatic environments. The secret behind a sloth's long breath-holding capacity lies in its low metabolic rate. Sloths have one of the slowest metabolisms of any mammal, meaning their bodies use oxygen at a much lower rate than most animals. This allows them to go for extended periods without taking a breath, conserving energy in the process. In contrast, dolphins, which are highly active marine mammals, must resurface for air every 10 to 15 minutes, as their higher metabolic rate requires more frequent oxygen intake. When submerged, sloths can slow their heart rate by up to 1/3 of its normal speed, further reducing their oxygen consumption. This ability is particularly useful when escaping predators. If a sloth finds itself threatened by a jaguar or harpy eagle on land, it may drop into the water and use its surprising swimming skills to evade danger. Sloths are naturally buoyant and use a slow but efficient dog paddle motion, propelled by their long arms. Although sloths spend most of their lives in the trees, their connection to water is an often overlooked aspect of their survival. Their long breath-holding ability is just another example of how these fascinating creatures have evolved to thrive in their slow-paced, energy-conserving lifestyle. It's a reminder that even the most unassuming animals can have some of the most incredible adaptations.
Some species of ants, particularly Matabele ants, exhibit a remarkable and rare behavior in the insect world. They actively rescue and heal their injured nestmates. These ants, native to sub-Saharan Africa, are known for raiding termite colonies in organized attacks. However, these battles often result in injuries, with ants losing legs or suffering wounds from termite soldiers. Instead of abandoning their wounded, Matabele ants have evolved a unique triage system where they carry injured comrades back to the nest for treatment, a behavior rarely seen in insects. When an ant is injured, it doesn't simply lie there helplessly. Studies have shown that wounded ants release distress pheromones, signaling nearby nestmates for help. Healthy ants respond by carefully inspecting the injured individual, and if the wounds are not too severe, they carry them back to the nest rather than leaving them behind. This contrasts sharply with many other social insects such as bees or wasps, which usually abandon or even kill injured members to maintain colony efficiency. Back in the nest, the injured ants receive a form of ant medical care. Their nestmates use their mouthparts to clean and lick the wounds, which scientists believe helps prevent infections by removing dirt and pathogens. This behavior significantly increases the survival rate of injured ants. About 90% of treated ants survive, compared to a nearly 80% fatality rate for those left untreated. Even more astonishing, some injured ants can fully recover and return to battle, demonstrating the effectiveness of this communal healthcare system. This healing behavior is an evolutionary advantage for Matabele ants. Because these ants specialize in high-risk termite raids, losing too many soldiers in battle would severely impact the colony's ability to gather food. By rescuing and treating their wounded, they maintain their numbers and increase their chances of survival. This unique form of cooperative care is one of the few known examples of medical treatment in the animal kingdom, highlighting just how complex and intelligent ant societies can be.
Some jellyfish possess an astonishing ability that defies the natural aging process. They are biologically immortal. The most well-known example is Turritopsis dohrnii, often referred to as the immortal jellyfish. This tiny, transparent species, native to oceans around the world, has developed a unique survival mechanism that allows it to reverse its aging process and start its life cycle anew under certain conditions. Unlike most organisms that grow old and eventually die, Turritopsis dohrnii can revert its adult cells back into an earlier stage of development, essentially returning to its polyp form, the jellyfish equivalent of infancy. This process, known as transdifferentiation, enables the jellyfish to escape death and begin its life cycle again, potentially repeating this process indefinitely. This ability is often triggered by stress, injury, starvation, or unfavorable environmental conditions, allowing the jellyfish to avoid death and effectively reset itself. While this biological trick grants Turritopsis dohrnii theoretical immortality, it doesn't make it invincible. These jellyfish can still fall victim to predators, disease, or environmental changes, which ultimately limit their lifespan in the wild. However, in controlled environments, their ability to rejuvenate themselves has fascinated scientists who are studying them for insights into aging, cell regeneration, and potential medical applications. The discovery of biological immortality in jellyfish challenges our understanding of life and aging. While humans and most animals experience cell deterioration and death as an unavoidable part of existence, Turritopsis dohrnii has evolved to sidestep this process entirely, offering a glimpse into a potential future where aging might one day be slowed or even reversed.
A shrimp's heart is uniquely positioned in its head, a fascinating anatomical quirk that sets it apart from many other creatures. While it might seem unusual, this placement actually makes sense when considering a shrimp's body structure and circulatory system. Shrimp belong to the arthropod family, which means their bodies are divided into segments. Unlike vertebrates, whose organs are typically housed in the chest or abdomen, shrimp have an exoskeleton and a compact, efficient internal layout. Their body is divided into two main parts: the cephalothorax, which is the head and thorax fused together, and the abdomen or tail. The shrimp's heart is located within the cephalothorax, behind the brain and just above the stomach, meaning it is technically positioned in what we consider the head region. This placement is essential for the shrimp's open circulatory system, where blood or hemolymph is pumped through the body cavity rather than confined to blood vessels. The heart distributes oxygen and nutrients to the organs efficiently within the head and thorax, supporting the shrimp's vital functions. Since the majority of a shrimp's critical organs, including its brain, stomach and gills, are also located in the cephalothorax, having the heart in close proximity helps with circulation and metabolic efficiency. Though the phrase "a shrimp's heart is in its head" might sound poetic or even symbolic, it's actually a biological adaptation that supports the shrimp's survival. This unique trait is just one of the many fascinating aspects of crustacean anatomy, demonstrating how evolution shapes species in unexpected yet highly effective ways.
Dogs have a fascinating and little-known way of regulating their body temperature through a specialized blood vessel system in their ears. This adaptation, known as the auricular arteriovenous anastomosis, allows dogs to redirect blood flow to their ears when they need to cool down. Since dogs do not have sweat glands like humans, except for a small number on their paw pads, they rely on other physiological mechanisms to release excess heat and maintain a stable body temperature. The thin skin and blood vessels in a dog's ears play a crucial role in this cooling process. When a dog gets too warm, more blood is directed to the ears, where the increased surface area helps dissipate heat more efficiently. This is particularly beneficial for breeds with a large or thin ears, such as greyhounds, basset hounds and coon hounds, as their ears act almost like built-in radiators. By contrast, dogs with smaller or thicker ears may have a slightly harder time releasing heat this way. In addition to this ear-based cooling system, dogs primarily rely on panting to regulate their temperature. Panting helps evaporate moisture from the tongue, nasal passages and lungs, which in turn cools their body. However, during extreme heat or strenuous activity, the ability to release heat through the ears becomes an important secondary mechanism, allowing for more efficient heat dissipation in hot conditions. Understanding this unique adaptation can help dog owners better care for their pets, especially in warm weather. Making sure your dog has access to shade, water, and proper ventilation can assist in keeping them cool, especially for breeds with smaller ears that may not have as efficient a cooling system. This hidden feature of canine biology is just one of the many ways dogs have evolved to adapt to different environments while staying active and healthy.
Crows are among the most intelligent birds on the planet, and one of their most fascinating abilities is their capacity to recognize human faces, and even remember them for years. Studies have shown that crows can distinguish between individual humans, associate them with positive or negative experiences, and adjust their behavior accordingly. This advanced cognitive skill places them on par with great apes, dolphins, and even young children in terms of problem solving and memory. One of the most famous studies on this ability was conducted by researchers at the University of Washington. Scientists wore distinctive masks while capturing and tagging wild crows for research. Even years later, when people wore those same masks, the crows sounded alarm calls, mobbed the individuals, and warned other crows in the area. This suggested not only a long memory, but also the ability to communicate danger to their peers. Crows don't just recognize threats, they also remember those who treat them well. People who regularly feed crows or show kindness have been known to be rewarded with small gifts like shiny objects, twigs, or bits of food. This ability to distinguish friend from foe suggests that crows possess complex emotions and social intelligence, much like humans do. Their capacity for holding grudges is not just individual, but social, as crows have been observed passing knowledge of dangerous humans to their offspring and other members of their group. This means that if you upset a crow, you may have an entire murder of crows watching you for years to come. Their remarkable memory and ability to share information highlight their advanced problem-solving skills and deep social bonds, making them one of the most intelligent birds in the animal kingdom.
Some species of ants have evolved an astonishing and gruesome defense mechanism: self-destruction. Known as exploding ants, these insects can rupture their own bodies to release a toxic, sticky substance that entangles and poisons their enemies. This self-sacrificial act, seen in species like Colobopsis explodens, is a prime example of altruistic defense, where individual ants give up their lives to protect the colony. The process works through specialized enlarged glands filled with a yellow, sticky, toxic secretion. When an enemy, such as another insect or a rival ant colony, attacks, an exploding ant contracts its body violently, causing its exoskeleton to tear open. This rupture releases the toxic goo, which immobilizes and deters the attacker, while also marking the area with a chemical warning for other ants. The explosion is fatal to the sacrificing ant, but it can effectively save the rest of the colony from invasion. Scientists studying Colobopsis explodens have observed that only certain worker ants possess this explosive ability, while others take on different roles like foraging or guarding the nest. This specialization highlights how ant colonies function as highly organized superorganisms, where individuals work collectively for the survival of the entire group. The ability to explode is not just random. It is triggered only in extreme threats, ensuring the sacrifice is made only when necessary. This incredible defense mechanism showcases the extreme adaptations found in the insect world. While dramatic, it is an effective strategy that helps protect the colony from predators and rival ants. The study of exploding ants continues to reveal fascinating insights into cooperative behavior, chemical warfare, and evolution, proving that even the smallest creatures can develop some of the most shocking survival tactics in nature. During World War II, the Allies knew that successfully invading Nazi-occupied France required more than just military strength. They needed deception. This led to Operation Fortitude, a large-scale ruse designed to convince the Germans that the main Allied invasion would take place at Pas-de-Calais rather than Normandy, where the real D-Day landings were planned. The operation was part of a broader deception strategy called Operation Bodyguard, which aimed to mislead the German High Command about the time, location, and strength of the invasion forces. By tricking the enemy into defending the wrong area, the Allies could reduce resistance in Normandy, giving them a better chance at establishing a foothold in Europe. One of the most remarkable aspects of Operation Fortitude was the use of an entirely fake army, known as the 1st US Army Group, FUSEC. This fictional force, supposedly led by General George S. Patton, consisted of inflatable tanks, wooden aircraft, and even fake landing craft positioned in southeastern England near Dover. The British even went so far as to create phony radio traffic mimicking what a real army would transmit, and they staged troop movements to make it appear as though a major invasion force was gathering. German reconnaissance aircraft that managed to fly over the area saw what looked like a massive military build-up, reinforcing the deception. A key figure in this operation was Juan Pujol Garcia, a Spanish double agent known as Garbo by the British. Pujol had infiltrated German intelligence and convinced them he was a loyal Nazi spy while secretly working for the Allies. Throughout the build-up to D-Day, he fed the Germans carefully crafted misinformation, making them believe that the Normandy landings were just a distraction and that the real attack would come later at Pas-de-Calais. Even after the D-Day invasion began on June 6, 1944, he continued to persuade the Germans to keep their forces in Calais, expecting another assault. This delayed their ability to send reinforcements to Normandy, giving the Allies crucial time to establish themselves. The success of Operation Fortitude had a profound impact on the outcome of the war. Because of the deception, Hitler held back several divisions, including some of his most experienced troops, expecting a second invasion at Calais that never came. This strategic miscalculation allowed the Allies to push inland from Normandy with far less resistance than they would have faced otherwise. The combination of physical deception, like inflatable tanks and fake bases, electronic deception such as false radio chatter, and human deception, like Pujol's misinformation, made Operation Fortitude one of the most successful military ruses in history. It serves as a testament to the power of intelligence, deception, and psychological warfare in shaping the course of history.
During the height of the Cold War, the CIA explored increasingly bizarre methods of espionage, leading to one of the strangest intelligence projects in history, Acoustic Kitty. The idea was to turn ordinary house cats into covert listening devices by surgically implanting tiny microphones and radio transmitters inside their bodies. Since cats were common in urban environments and could move about unnoticed, the CIA believed they could use them to eavesdrop on Soviet officials without raising suspicion. The project involved inserting a microphone in the cat's ear, a radio transmitter at the base of its skull, and a wire antenna woven into its tail. The program, which reportedly cost millions of dollars, involved extensive research into cat behavior. The CIA hired animal behaviorists to train the cats to move on command, a task that proved far more difficult than anticipated. Unlike dogs, cats are naturally independent and uninterested in following instructions. Handlers struggled to get them to follow a straight path or stay focused on a specific target. Despite these setbacks, the agency pressed forward, convinced that a well-trained feline agent could infiltrate Soviet embassies or government buildings undetected. The first live field test was a complete disaster. The CIA released their specially modified cat near a Soviet compound in Washington, D.C., hoping it would approach a group of Soviet diplomats and pick up their conversation. However, within seconds of being let loose, the cat wandered into the street and was immediately run over by a taxi. Years of research and an enormous budget were wasted in an instant. The failure highlighted not only the difficulty of training cats for espionage, but also the sheer unpredictability of using live animals for such missions. Following this catastrophe, the CIA ultimately abandoned the project, concluding that cats were simply too unreliable to be used as spies. Documents later declassified in the early 2000s confirmed that the agency deemed the experiment a failure, though they learned valuable lessons about animal behavior and electronic implants. While Acoustic Kitty never became a viable espionage tool, it remains one of the most bizarre and ambitious covert operations in intelligence history, a true testament to the extremes of Cold War innovation.
When the Eiffel Tower was first constructed for the 1889 Exposition Universelle, or World's Fair in Paris, it was never meant to be a permanent structure. Designed by Gustave Eiffel and his company, the tower was built as a temporary showcase of French engineering, meant to stand for only 20 years before being dismantled in 1909. Many prominent artists and intellectuals at the time, including writer Guy de Maupassant, criticized the tower as an eyesore, believing it would ruin the Parisian skyline. The city had originally planned to tear it down once the permit for its construction expired. However, the tower's fate took a dramatic turn due to advancements in wireless telegraphy. Gustave Eiffel, recognizing the potential of the tower for communication purposes, funded experiments to install a radio antenna at the top. By the early 1900s, the French military saw the value of using the Eiffel Tower as a radio transmission station, which allowed them to intercept enemy messages and strengthen national security. This technological significance saved the tower from demolition and secured its place as a lasting monument. During World War I, the Eiffel Tower played a critical role in intercepting German radio communications, particularly helping to jam enemy signals during the Battle of the Marne in 1914. By the time its original 20-year lease was up, the tower had become too valuable for strategic reasons to be dismantled. As radio technology continued to advance, the Eiffel Tower remained an essential communication hub, solidifying its status as a permanent part of the Parisian landscape. Today, the Eiffel Tower is one of the most iconic landmarks in the world, drawing millions of visitors each year. What was once considered a temporary structure destined for demolition has instead become an enduring symbol of France. The decision to keep the tower not only preserved an architectural masterpiece, but also demonstrated how innovation can transform something once deemed useless into a national treasure.
During the Prohibition era, from 1920 to 1933 in the United States, the federal government took extreme measures to enforce the ban on alcohol. One of the most shocking actions was the deliberate poisoning of industrial alcohol supplies. Since legal alcohol production was banned, many people turned to bootleggers to obtain liquor. However, much of this illegal alcohol came from industrial sources, alcohol used in paints, solvents, fuels and other commercial products, which criminals would steal and attempt to distill into drinkable liquor. To combat this, the government ordered manufacturers to denature industrial alcohol by adding toxic chemicals, making it unfit for human consumption. The poisoning program intensified under President Calvin Coolidge, with the US Treasury Department working alongside chemists to develop stronger, deadlier formulas. The altered alcohol often contained methanol, also known as wood alcohol, benzene and formaldehyde, substances that can cause blindness, organ failure and death. The government's hope was that these chemicals would deter people from drinking bootleg liquor, but instead, they led to thousands of casualties. Estimates suggest that by the time Prohibition ended in 1933, at least 10,000 people had died as a direct result of consuming poisoned alcohol, while many more were left permanently blind or severely ill. Despite these horrifying consequences, the federal government refused to halt the poisoning program. Officials argued that people knew the risks of drinking bootleg alcohol and that the responsibility lay with those who chose to break the law. However, doctors and public health advocates condemned the practice, calling it a cruel and inhumane form of law enforcement. Newspapers reported on the rising death toll, sparking outrage among the public. The policy ultimately did little to curb illegal drinking as people continued to seek out alcohol despite the dangers. When Prohibition was repealed in 1933 with the passage of the 21st Amendment, the government finally abandoned the poisoning program and legal alcohol production resumed. The era remains one of the most controversial chapters in US history, highlighting the unintended and often disastrous consequences of extreme government policies. What was meant to deter alcohol consumption instead led to mass poisoning, proving that prohibition measures can sometimes cause more harm than good.
Before the invention of rubber erasers, people had a surprisingly simple yet effective way to remove pencil marks: breadcrumbs. In the 18th century and earlier, writers and artists would use, often slightly damp, to rub away graphite from paper. The soft, absorbent texture of bread made it an effective tool for lifting pencil marks without damaging the paper. However, breadcrumbs had some drawbacks. Easily leave behind bits of residue and could attract pests if not properly discarded. The transition from bread to rubber erasers happened by accident in 1770, when Edward Nairn, an English engineer, discovered that natural rubber, then called India rubber, could effectively erase pencil marks. According to historical accounts, Nairn had mistakenly picked up a piece of rubber instead of bread and found that it worked much better. Recognizing its potential, he began selling rubber erasers commercially. marking the beginning of a new era in writing and drawing tools. However, early rubber erasers had their own problems. They degraded quickly, had a strong odour, and would sometimes rot over time. A major breakthrough came when scientists discovered that vulcanization, a process developed by Charles Goodyear in 1839, could make rubber more durable and resistant to wear. This process involved heating rubber with sulfur, strengthening its structure and making it much longer lasting. With this improvement, rubber erasers became the standard tool for correcting pencil marks, replacing breadcrumbs entirely. By the late 19th century, erasers were widely available and even integrated into the tops of pencils, making corrections more convenient than ever. Today, erasers come in many forms, including vinyl, plastic and kneaded rubber erasers used by artists. While breadcrumbs are now just a historical curiosity, they serve as a fascinating reminder of how people improvised before modern inventions. The simple act of erasing mistakes, something we take for granted today, has evolved significantly from its humble origins in a loaf of bread.
The guillotine, often associated with the French Revolution, remained France's official method of execution long after the revolution ended. Surprisingly, it was still in use until 1977. Invented in the late 18th century, the guillotine was designed to be a more humane and efficient means of capital punishment. It replaced earlier methods like hanging, which were often slow and painful. The device became infamous during the Reign of Terror from 1793 to 1794, when thousands, including King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette, were executed publicly in front of massive crowds. Despite its revolutionary origins, the guillotine remained France's preferred method of execution for nearly 2 centuries. By the 20th century, many countries had abandoned public executions, but France continued to use the guillotine. While executions were no longer public after 1939, the guillotine was still employed in French prisons. The last person to be executed by guillotine in France was Hamida Jandoubi, a Tunisian immigrant convicted of murder. On September 10, 1977, he was beheaded at Bonmetz prison in Marseille. Jandoubi's execution marked the final use of the guillotine in France and in the Western world. The continued use of the guillotine in the 1970s was increasingly controversial. By this time, many European nations had abolished the death penalty, and the idea of using such an old and gruesome method of execution seemed outdated. The execution of Jandoubi sparked public debate about whether France should maintain capital punishment at all. This debate, along with shifting political attitudes and growing opposition to the death penalty, led to its abolition in France in 1981 under President François Mitterrand. Today, the guillotine is seen as a symbol of France's revolutionary past, but its long history as an official execution method is often overlooked. Though many associate it with the 18th and 19th centuries, the fact that it was still in use during the late 20th century is a chilling reminder of how slow legal and cultural changes can be. The last use of the guillotine happened just 4 years before Star Wars: A New Hope premiered, highlighting how recently France was still carrying out executions using this historic device.
One of the most fascinating stories from the life of Julius Caesar is the time he was kidnapped by pirates and actually demanded they increase his ransom because he believed he was worth more. This unusual event occurred in 75 BCE, when a young Caesar, then about 25 years old, was traveling across the Aegean Sea. While en route to study rhetoric in Rhodes, he was captured by a group of Cilician pirates, who were notorious for raiding ships and holding wealthy Romans for ransom. They initially demanded 20 talents of silver, roughly 600 kilograms, or 1,300 pounds of silver, but Caesar laughed at the amount, claiming he was worth at least 50 talents, more than twice their demand. The pirates, amused by Caesar's confidence and arrogance, agreed to the higher ransom and allowed him to send his men to raise the money. While waiting for the ransom to be paid, Caesar lived among the pirates for 38 days, treating them not as captors but as subordinates. He joked with them, wrote poetry, and even participated in their games and exercises. He often told them, in a half-serious manner, that when he was free, he would return to hunt them down and crucify them all. The pirates, thinking he was joking, laughed at his boldness. Once the ransom was paid and Caesar was released, he immediately began planning his revenge. He raised a fleet, hunted down the very same pirates who had captured him, and swiftly defeated them. Instead of simply punishing them, Caesar personally ensured they were crucified, just as he had promised. However, in a rare act of mercy, he ordered their throats slit first, sparing them from the prolonged agony of crucifixion. This act demonstrated both his ruthless efficiency and his ability to command respect and fear, even at a young age. This episode in Caesar's life is a perfect example of his charisma, ambition, and strategic thinking, qualities that would later make him one of the most powerful figures in Roman history. Rather than being humiliated by his capture, he turned it into a power move, proving his dominance and reinforcing his reputation. It was a glimpse into the leadership style that would eventually lead him to become dictator of Rome, forever altering the course of history.
One of the most bizarre events in papal history occurred in 897 CE when Pope Stephen VI ordered the corpse of his predecessor, Pope Formosus, to be exhumed and put on trial in what became known as the Cadaver Synod, or Synodus Horrenda in Latin. Formosus had been pope from 891 to 896 CE, but after his death his political enemies, particularly Stephen VI, sought to discredit his legacy and erase his influence. To achieve this, Stephen had Formosus's rotting corpse dug up, dressed in papal robes, and placed on a throne in the Lateran Basilica to stand trial. Since Formosus was, of course, unable to speak, a deacon was assigned to act as his defense attorney, though the trial was anything but fair. Pope Stephen VI, driven by personal and political grievances, accused the dead pope of illegally ascending to the papacy, violating church law and committing perjury. During the surreal proceedings, Stephen ranted and mocked the corpse, treating it as if it were alive. Unsurprisingly, Formosus was found guilty, and as punishment, his papal vestments were stripped, his 3 blessing fingers were cut off, and his body was dragged through the streets of Rome before being tossed into the Tiber River. The spectacle horrified many in Rome, and Stephen VI's obsession with humiliating a dead man backfired. His behavior was seen as so excessive that it led to public outrage, and within a year he was imprisoned and later strangled to death by his own political enemies. Formosus's body was eventually recovered from the river, reburied with honor, and his papacy was posthumously reinstated by later popes, nullifying the absurd ruling of the Cadaver Synod. The event remains one of the most macabre and infamous moments in church history, demonstrating the extreme political rivalries of the medieval papacy. It also highlights how far some leaders were willing to go to maintain power, even if it meant putting a rotting corpse on trial for crimes he supposedly committed in life.
The oldest known Yo Mama joke dates back to around 1500 BCE, making it over 3,500 years old. It was discovered on a Babylonian cuneiform tablet that contained a collection of proverbs, riddles and humour written in Akkadian, one of the ancient languages of Mesopotamia. While much of the text has faded over time, scholars identified one of the jokes as a clear insult about someone's mother, proving that trash talk and humour have been around for millennia. Unfortunately, the full joke is incomplete due to the damage to the tablet, but researchers have reconstructed parts of it. What remains suggests that it was likely a crude, sarcastic remark about a mother's behaviour or status, much like the modern Yo Mama jokes that poke fun at someone's intelligence, size or actions. This discovery suggests that ancient people, just like today, enjoyed playful insults and wordplay, showing that humour has remained a constant part of human culture. The Babylonian joke is one of the earliest examples of written humour, but it wasn't the only one. Other ancient civilizations, such as the Egyptians and Greeks, also recorded jokes, riddles and comedic sayings, many of which wouldn't seem out of place in today's world. The fact that a mother-based insult was included in this collection shows that joking about family members was just as entertaining back then as it is now. While we may never know the exact wording of this ancient joke, its existence proves that Yo Mama humour is timeless. It's a reminder that no matter the era, people have always loved to tease, joke and laugh at each other's expense.
One of the most bizarre and fascinating animal survival stories in history is that of Mike the Headless Chicken, a bird that lived for 18 months without a head. On September 10, 1945, a farmer named Lloyd Olson from Fruita, Colorado, attempted to butcher a 5-month-old Wyandotte rooster for dinner. However, when he swung his axe, he missed the jugular vein and a portion of the brainstem, leaving Mike's brainstem and one ear intact. To Olson's shock, Mike did not die. Instead, he stood up, walked around, and even attempted to preen himself as if nothing had happened. Realizing that the chicken was still alive, Olson decided to take care of him instead of finishing the job. He started feeding Mike a mixture of milk and water with an eyedropper, along with small grains of food that he placed directly into the open esophagus. Incredibly, Mike continued to thrive, gaining weight and behaving like a normal chicken, trying to peck for food, attempting to crow, though he couldn't make a sound, and even perching on a roost. News of the headless chicken that refused to die quickly spread, and Olson took Mike on the road, showcasing him in sideshows and exhibitions across the United States. Mike became a national sensation, earning his owner as much as $4,500 per month at the height of his fame, which is equivalent to tens of thousands of dollars today. He was featured in magazines like Time and Life, and people travelled from all over to see the miraculous bird in person. Scientists were fascinated by how Mike had survived, with experts concluding that because a chicken's brainstem controls basic reflexes, Mike could still function despite losing his head. Mike's unusual life finally came to an end in March 1947 when he choked to death in a motel room in Phoenix, Arizona. Olson had accidentally left behind the eyedropper used to clear Mike's throat, and by the time he realized what was happening, it was too late. Despite his death, Mike the Headless Chicken remains a legend, and the town of Fruita still honors him with an annual Mike the Headless Chicken Festival, celebrating his unlikely survival and place in history.
The speed of a computer mouse is measured in a unit called Mickeys. This quirky term originates from the early days of computer technology and is named after Mickey Mouse, likely as a playful reference to movement and tracking. A Mickey is defined as the smallest detectable movement of a computer mouse, typically about 1/200th of an inch or 0.1 millimeters. This unit is used to measure the distance the mouse travels in relation to cursor movement on the screen. Mickeys are particularly useful in the realm of computer engineering and gaming to fine-tune mouse sensitivity settings. The measurement is often expressed as Mickeys per second, which quantifies the speed at which the mouse is moved. For example, if a mouse moves 500 Mickeys per second, it means that the sensor detects 500 tiny increments of movement within that time frame. This unit helps determine how precisely a mouse translates physical motion into digital input, making it an important factor in high-performance gaming, graphic design, and other precision-based tasks. The concept of Mickeys plays a crucial role in mouse acceleration and sensitivity settings. Different operating systems and software applications use these values to control how fast the cursor moves in response to physical motion. By adjusting the Mickey per pixel ratio, users can fine-tune their mouse experience, ensuring smoother or more rapid movements depending on their needs. Although the term Mickeys is not commonly referenced in everyday computing, it remains an integral part of how mouse movement is measured and optimized in modern technology. Would you like to know more about how this applies to gaming or design settings?
An octopus's tentacle, more accurately called an arm, is a marvel of nature, containing more neurons than a human brain. While the entire octopus has around 500 million neurons, roughly 2/3 of them are located in its 8 arms rather than its central brain. In contrast, the average human brain contains about 86 billion neurons, but all of them are centralized in the head. This decentralized nervous system allows octopus arms to think, sense, and react independently, making them some of the most complex and versatile appendages in the animal kingdom. Each octopus arm has around 40 to 50 million neurons, enabling it to perform sophisticated tasks without needing constant input from the brain. In some cases, an arm can continue moving, exploring, or even trying to escape for a short time after being severed. This autonomy allows octopuses to multitask in extraordinary ways. For instance, an octopus can use one arm to probe a crevice for food, while others engage in camouflage, movement, or even problem-solving. The arms can also taste and smell their environment thanks to thousands of chemosensory suckers, giving the octopus an unparalleled ability to interact with its surroundings. This incredible nervous system makes octopuses highly intelligent creatures capable of solving puzzles, using tools, and escaping enclosures with surprising skill. Scientists often compare the octopus's nervous system to an alien form of intelligence, as its structure is vastly different from that of vertebrates. The combination of a semi-autonomous nervous system, advanced problem-solving skills, and unparalleled dexterity makes the octopus one of the most fascinating creatures in the ocean. Would you like to dive deeper into how octopuses use their intelligence in the wild?
A single teaspoon of honey might not seem like much, but it actually represents the entire lifetime work of approximately 12 honeybees. This incredible fact highlights the dedication, teamwork and efficiency of honeybee colonies, which work tirelessly to produce this liquid gold. Honey production is a complex process that begins when worker bees, also known as foragers, collect nectar from flowers. They use their long tube-like tongues to suck up the nectar and store it in their honey stomachs, a specialized organ separate from their digestive system. Enzymes in the honey stomach begin breaking down the nectar's complex sugars into simpler ones, preparing it for storage. Once the foragers return to the hive, they pass the nectar to house bees through a process called trophallaxis, a mouth-to-mouth transfer. House bees then continue breaking down the sugars and deposit the nectar into the wax honeycomb cells. To transform the nectar into honey, bees fan their wings rapidly, creating airflow that evaporates excess water, thickening the nectar into honey. Once the honey reaches the right consistency, around 17 to 18% water content, the bees seal the cell with wax, preserving it for future use. Each individual bee produces only a tiny fraction of a teaspoon of honey in its entire lifetime, about 1/12 of a teaspoon. This means that it takes the collective effort of 12 bees each, foraging for nectar throughout their entire lifespan of about 6 weeks, just to make a single teaspoon of honey. To put it in perspective, a single bee must visit around 2,000 flowers per day and may travel up to 5 miles from the hive during a single foraging trip. A healthy bee colony can contain 50,000 to 60,000 bees, working together to produce 30 to 100 pounds of honey per year. However, much of this honey is consumed by the bees themselves, providing them with energy to survive through the winter when flowers are scarce. Beekeepers carefully harvest only the excess honey, ensuring the hive has enough to sustain itself. The fact that it takes 12 bees a lifetime to produce just 1 teaspoon of honey underscores the importance of protecting honeybee populations. Bees not only make honey, but also play a critical role in pollination, helping plants, fruits and vegetables reproduce. With habitat loss, pesticides and climate change threatening bee populations, every teaspoon of honey is a reminder of the immense effort and contribution of these small but mighty creatures.
Quantum entanglement is one of the most mind-bending and fascinating concepts in physics. It describes a phenomenon in which 2 or more particles become interconnected, meaning their properties are instantaneously correlated, no matter how far apart they are. If one particle's state is measured, the other particle's state will instantly change accordingly, even if they are separated by light years or entire galaxies. This bizarre effect appears to defy classical physics and has puzzled scientists, including Albert Einstein, who famously called it spooky action at a distance. In the quantum world, particles such as electrons or photons can become entangled when they interact in a specific way. Once entangled, their quantum states, such as spin, polarization, or momentum, become linked, even if these particles are later separated by vast distances. Measuring the state of one will instantaneously determine the state of the other. For example, imagine two entangled electrons with opposite spins. If one electron is measured and found to have an up spin, the other electron's spin will immediately be down, no matter how far away it is. The key mystery here is that the second electron's spin isn't just determined at the moment of measurement. It seems to have been set instantly, defying the normal speed limits of communication, including the speed of light. Einstein was deeply skeptical of quantum entanglement. He and his colleagues, Boris Podolsky and Nathan Rosen, proposed the EPR paradox, Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen paradox, in 1935, arguing that quantum mechanics must be incomplete. They believed that hidden variables must exist, unseen information determining the state of each particle before measurement. However, in the 1960s, physicist John Bell developed Bell's theorem, which showed that no hidden variable theory could fully explain quantum entanglement. Experiments performed since then, most famously by Alana Specht in the 1980s, confirmed that entanglement is real and cannot be explained by classical physics alone. This meant that the universe operates in ways even stranger than Einstein had imagined. One of the most puzzling aspects of entanglement is its instantaneous nature. The fact that a particle's state changes across vast distances suggests some form of faster-than-light interaction. However, entanglement cannot be used for faster-than-light communication because no actual information is being sent. Only correlations between particles are observed when measurements are made. The results still appear random until both parties compare their data through conventional communication, which is limited by the speed of light. Although entanglement seems like a purely theoretical curiosity, it has real-world applications in emerging technologies. Quantum computing. Entanglement is key to quantum computers, allowing them to process information exponentially faster than classical computers. Quantum cryptography. Entangled particles enable ultra-secure communication, as any attempt to eavesdrop would disrupt the system and be immediately detected. Quantum teleportation. Scientists have successfully teleported quantum states using entanglement, a potential breakthrough for future quantum networks. Quantum entanglement challenges our fundamental understanding of reality. It suggests that the universe may be deeply interconnected, with information and influences extending far beyond classical space-time. Some theories even propose that entanglement could be linked to the fabric of space itself, hinting at deeper connections between quantum mechanics and gravity. While quantum entanglement remains one of the greatest mysteries in physics, its implications for technology, philosophy, and our understanding of reality are profound. As scientists continue exploring this phenomenon, we may uncover even more astonishing truths about the nature of the universe.
The term computer bug is widely used today to describe software glitches and hardware malfunctions. But the origin of the phrase is quite literal. The first documented computer bug was an actual insect, a moth, discovered in 1947 inside a computer at Harvard University. This seemingly trivial event has since become a legendary moment in computing history. The bug was found in the Harvard Mark II, an early electromechanical computer used for complex calculations. This massive machine, which used relays, vacuum tubes and switches, was being operated by a team of engineers, including the renowned computer scientist Grace Hopper. One day the machine started experiencing unexplained errors. After some investigation, the engineers opened the computer's panels and discovered that a moth had become trapped inside one of the machine's relays, causing it to malfunction. The team carefully removed the moth and taped it into the computer's logbook with a note describing it as the first actual case of a bug being found. Although Grace Hopper is often credited with coining the term debugging due to this incident, the word bug had actually been used in engineering long before computers existed. Thomas Edison, for example, used the term in the late 1800s to describe mechanical issues in his inventions. However, the Harvard Mark II moth incident became the most famous use of the term in the context of computing, solidifying bug and debugging as standard technical jargon. Today, software bugs are an inevitable part of programming, but the concept of debugging, systematically finding and fixing errors, remains central to computing. The original moth is now preserved in the Smithsonian Institution, serving as a reminder of how even the tiniest creatures can influence technological history. While modern bugs are mostly coding errors rather than actual insects, the first bug remains a fascinating and humorous moment in the evolution of computing. It also highlights the ingenuity of early computer engineers, who had to physically inspect and repair machines in ways that today's programmers rarely need to do.
Diamonds rain on Jupiter and Saturn, a cosmic gemstorm. The idea of diamond rain on Jupiter and Saturn sounds like something from a science fiction story, but it is actually grounded in real planetary science. Due to the immense pressure and extreme atmospheric conditions on these gas giants, scientists believe that diamonds can form and fall through their atmospheres like rain. This fascinating phenomenon is a result of chemical reactions, intense heat and crushing pressure deep within these planets. How are diamonds formed in Jupiter and Saturn? Unlike Earth, where diamonds are formed deep in the mantle over millions of years, the process on Jupiter and Saturn is much more dynamic and violent. These planets have thick, turbulent atmospheres primarily composed of hydrogen and helium, with significant amounts of methane. Methane turns to carbon. In the upper atmosphere, lightning storms and high-energy collisions break down methane molecules, or CH4, into their basic component carbon. Carbon transforms into soot and graphite. As the free carbon falls deeper into the atmosphere, the intense pressure causes it to clump together, forming tiny, black soot particles. As these particles descend further, the pressure increases dramatically, reaching thousands of times the atmospheric pressure on Earth, causing the carbon to compress into graphite, just like the material found in pencils. Graphite turns into diamonds. As the graphite continues to fall, it reaches a depth where the pressure is so high that it crystallizes into diamonds. These diamonds can grow to impressive sizes, potentially reaching centimeters or even larger, before they continue sinking deeper into the planet. The fate of falling diamonds. While diamonds can form and rain down, they don't last forever. As they continue their descent into even greater depths, the extreme temperatures, up to thousands of degrees Fahrenheit, eventually cause them to melt into liquid carbon, effectively creating a vast ocean of liquid diamond in the deeper layers of Saturn and Jupiter. Other planets that might have diamond rain. While Jupiter and Saturn are the most well-known candidates for diamond rain, some scientists believe that similar processes could be happening on Uranus and Neptune as well. In fact, because Uranus and Neptune have even higher carbon concentrations, they might have even more extensive diamond rain, possibly leading to entire layers of solid diamond deep within their interiors. Could we ever collect space diamonds? While these diamonds exist in abundance on Jupiter and Saturn, retrieving them would be nearly impossible due to the harsh conditions and crushing pressures deep inside the planets. However, studying these processes helps scientists understand the complex chemistry of planetary atmospheres and could offer clues about the formation of exoplanets across the universe. A cosmic wonder. The idea that diamonds, one of Earth's most valuable and sought-after gems, fall from the sky on Jupiter and Saturn is a fascinating reminder of how different and extreme other worlds can be. While diamonds on Earth are rare and precious, on these gas giants they are a natural byproduct of planetary physics, raining down in a spectacular cosmic storm.
Wi-Fi signals can be disrupted by fish tanks. The science behind it. It may sound surprising, but fish tanks can interfere with Wi-Fi signals, leading to weaker connections, or even complete signal drops. This happens because of how water interacts with radio waves, especially at the frequencies commonly used for Wi-Fi networks. If you've ever noticed slow internet speeds near a large aquarium, there's a good scientific reason for it. How Wi-Fi works and why it's affected by fish tanks. Wi-Fi signals are a type of radio wave specifically operating in the 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz frequency bands. These signals travel through the air in a straight line, bouncing off surfaces and passing through some objects, but they can also be absorbed or blocked by certain materials. Water, especially in large amounts like a fish tank, is very effective at absorbing radio waves. 1. Water absorbs electromagnetic waves. Water molecules are polar, meaning they have a positive and negative end. This allows them to interact with electromagnetic waves, absorbing energy from the signal. The 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi frequency is particularly close to the resonant frequency of water, meaning water absorbs a significant amount of this signal. That's why microwave ovens, which operate at 2.45 GHz, can efficiently heat food containing water. 2. Signal reflection and scattering. Fish tanks are often made of glass, which itself can reflect and distort Wi-Fi signals. Water inside the tank scatters the signals, causing them to weaken or even fail to reach their intended destination. The larger the tank, the greater the disruption. A fish tank can block Wi-Fi signals if it's placed between your router and your device. Some common scenarios where this might happen include a fish tank near the router. The signal strength is significantly reduced because most of the Wi-Fi waves are absorbed. A fish tank between the router and your device. The signal might be distorted or weakened, leading to slower speeds or connection drops. Wi-Fi router placed behind or next to a large aquarium. The signal may be almost entirely blocked, making it hard for devices in another room to receive a strong connection. How to minimize fish tank Wi-Fi interference. If you have a fish tank and notice Wi-Fi problems, here are some solutions. 1. Reposition your router. Place the router in a higher location, away from the fish tank. Avoid positioning it directly behind or next to the aquarium. 2. Use the 5 GHz band. The 5 GHz Wi-Fi band is absorbed by water less efficiently than 2.4 GHz, meaning it may perform better in homes with large aquariums. However, 5 GHz signals have a shorter range, so their effectiveness depends on your home layout. 3. Upgrade to a mesh network. Mesh Wi-Fi systems use multiple nodes to distribute signals around obstacles like fish tanks. This helps improve connectivity in tricky environments with many obstructions. 4. Use a wired connection. If your router is near your fish tank, consider using Ethernet cables for devices that require a stable connection. A quirky yet real Wi-Fi challenge. While it may sound strange, the science behind Wi-Fi and water interactions makes it clear why large bodies of water, including fish tanks, can disrupt wireless signals. Understanding this can help improve home Wi-Fi performance and ensure that both your internet connection and your fish stay happy.
The highest officially recorded temperature on Earth occurred on July 10, 1913, in Furnace Creek, California, a location within Death Valley, one of the most extreme environments on the planet. The temperature that day reached a blistering 134 degrees Fahrenheit, or 56.7 degrees Celsius, a record that still stands more than a century later. Death Valley is one of the hottest places on Earth due to a combination of geographical and atmospheric factors. Low elevation, Furnace Creek sits at 190 feet or 58 meters below sea level, meaning the air pressure is slightly higher, which can trap heat more effectively. Surrounding mountain ranges, the valley is surrounded by mountains, which create a rain shadow effect, preventing moisture from reaching the region. This lack of humidity reduces cloud cover, allowing the sun's rays to directly heat the valley floor. Desert surface and heat retention. The valley floor consists of dark rocks, sand, and salt flats, which absorb and retain heat. At night, the heat is slowly released, meaning temperatures remain high even after sunset. Dry air and lack of vegetation. With almost no moisture in the air, there is very little evaporative cooling, unlike in humid regions where sweat and water can help regulate temperature. The barren landscape means there are no trees or plants to provide shade. Although 134 degrees Fahrenheit is the official world record, some meteorologists have questioned its validity. Critics argue that the temperature reading might have been a recording error due to the equipment used at the time. Weather conditions on that day didn't fully match expectations for such extreme heat. More recent records suggest that temperatures in Death Valley rarely reach that high, even in modern times with better instruments. Despite these concerns, the record remains officially recognized by the World Meteorological Organization. Even if the 1913 record were to be disputed, Death Valley continues to break heat records. Modern highest temperature. On August 16, 2020, Furnace Creek recorded 130 degrees Fahrenheit or 54.4 degrees Celsius, the highest verified temperature in the last century. This is the hottest reliably recorded temperature in modern times, given improvements in measurement technology. Hottest overnight low temperature. On July 12, 2012, Death Valley recorded an overnight low of 107 degrees Fahrenheit or 41.7 degrees Celsius, making it the hottest nighttime temperature ever measured. Earth's hottest natural temperature, 134 degrees Fahrenheit, is scorching, but it pales in comparison to other planets. On Venus, the surface temperature is a consistent 867 degrees Fahrenheit, or 464 degrees Celsius, due to its thick atmosphere trapping heat. Mercury, the closest planet to the Sun, experiences daytime highs of 800 degrees Fahrenheit, or 427 degrees Celsius, but plunges to minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit, or minus 180 degrees Celsius, at night. With climate change driving global temperature increases, many scientists warn that extreme heat events could become more frequent and severe. Some models predict that, in the coming decades, regions like the Middle East, South Asia, and parts of the US Southwest could see even higher temperatures, possibly surpassing the 1913 record under the right conditions. If you ever find yourself in an extreme heat event, survival depends on proper hydration, shade and cooling measures. Death Valley's visitors are advised to avoid hiking after 10 a.m., carry extra water, and recognize heat stroke symptoms.
The sulfur in your body enough to kill all fleas on a dog. Sulfur is a crucial element in the human body, playing a role in various biological processes. It is one of the essential elements for life and is found in every cell, tissue and organ. Surprisingly, the total amount of sulfur in a human body, about 140 grams or 5 ounces in an average adult, is enough to kill all fleas on an average-sized dog if it were used in its toxic form. Why does your body contain sulfur? Sulfur is present in many proteins, enzymes and vitamins that keep your body functioning properly. Some of its key roles include building proteins. Sulfur is a component of essential amino acids like cysteine and methionine, which are necessary for forming proteins in your muscles, skin and hair. Strengthening hair, nails and skin. Keratin, the protein that makes up your hair and nails, contains high amounts of sulfur, giving these structures their strength and durability. Detoxification. Sulfur plays a key role in the liver's detox processes, helping to remove harmful substances from the body. Antioxidant function. It is a component of glutathione, one of the body's most powerful antioxidants that protects cells from damage. Joint health. Sulfur is necessary for the production of cartilage, which keeps joints healthy and flexible. How can sulfur kill fleas? Sulfur has been used as a natural pesticide for centuries. When applied in its elemental or chemical form, sulfur disrupts the metabolism of small insects like fleas, mites and lice, effectively killing them. Toxic to fleas. Sulfur interferes with flea reproduction and can kill them on contact in high enough concentrations. Sulfur is used in pet care. For example, some flea shampoos and powders contain sulfur because it is a natural alternative to synthetic pesticides. Now, when it comes to humans, sulfur is safe in normal doses. While the sulfur in our bodies is essential for life, excessive amounts can be harmful. However, under normal conditions, the sulfur in your body is bound in proteins and not toxic like raw sulfur powder. Sulfur-rich foods in your diet. Your body gets sulfur mainly through diet, especially from foods rich in certain amino acids and compounds. Common sulfur-rich foods include protein sources, eggs, meat, fish, and dairy. Vegetables, garlic, onions, cabbage, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. Legumes, lentils, chickpeas and soybeans. Nuts and seeds, sunflower seeds and Brazil nuts. Fun perspective. How much sulfur is in your body? To put this in perspective, The average human body contains 140 grams, or 5 ounces of sulfur. An average dog flea weighs about 0.45 milligrams. A dog may have hundreds or thousands of fleas in a severe infestation. If all the sulfur in your body was somehow extracted and converted into its toxic form, it would theoretically be enough to wipe out an entire flea infestation on a dog. While this fact sounds shocking, it simply highlights how sulfur, an essential element in our bodies, can also be deadly to certain small organisms. Our body's natural chemistry plays a fascinating role in everything from metabolism to pest control.
Uranium is one of the densest naturally occurring elements on Earth. A single cubic foot of uranium weighs an astonishing 1,190 pounds. That's more than half a ton in a space no bigger than a small microwave. This extreme density makes uranium highly valuable in both energy production and military applications, as well as an interesting subject in physics and engineering. The reason uranium is so dense lies in its atomic structure. Uranium has an atomic number of 92, meaning each atom contains 92 protons in its nucleus. It also has a high atomic mass due to the presence of many neutrons. The most common isotope, uranium-238, has 146 neutrons. These tightly packed particles create an incredibly heavy and dense nucleus, making uranium one of the heaviest naturally occurring elements on Earth. For comparison, here's how uranium's density stacks up against other materials. Water, 62.4 pounds per cubic foot. Aluminum, 168.5 pounds per cubic foot. Lead, 708 pounds per cubic foot. Uranium, 1,190 pounds per cubic foot. Gold, 1,206 pounds per cubic foot. Osmium, the densest metal, 1,411 pounds per cubic foot. While uranium is denser than lead, it is slightly less dense than gold and significantly less dense than osmium and iridium, the densest known elements. The high density of uranium has several practical applications. First, nuclear energy uranium is best known as the primary fuel for nuclear reactors. The isotope uranium-235 or U-235 undergoes nuclear fission, releasing vast amounts of energy used to generate electricity. Second, military armor and ammunition. Due to its density, uranium is used in armor-piercing rounds and military tank armor, often in the form of depleted uranium, or DU, which is a byproduct of uranium enrichment. DU is denser than lead, making it highly effective in penetrating enemy vehicles and fortifications. Lastly, counterweights and shielding. Because uranium is both extremely dense and capable of blocking radiation, it is used in counterweights for aircraft, as well as in radiation shielding for medical and industrial applications. To put 1,190 pounds per cubic foot into perspective, a cubic foot of uranium weighs as much as a grand piano or a polar bear. If you had a gallon-sized block of uranium, it would weigh around 150 pounds, about as much as an average adult human, and a basketball-sized piece of uranium would be nearly 200 pounds, almost impossible to lift. Despite being radioactive, natural uranium emits low levels of radiation and is not highly dangerous to handle in solid form. The real dangers arise when uranium is inhaled or ingested, as radioactive particles can damage cells and increase cancer risks over time. Additionally, uranium's extreme weight means handling large amounts can pose physical dangers due to its sheer mass. Uranium's remarkable density makes it one of the heaviest and most fascinating elements on Earth. Whether used for nuclear power, military applications, or industrial purposes, its sheer mass and atomic structure make it a truly unique and valuable resource. Despite its radioactive nature, uranium continues to be a crucial element in both energy production and scientific research, shaping modern technology and global industries.
The human circulatory system is an intricate and vast network of blood vessels, including arteries, veins and capillaries. If stretched out end to end, these vessels would span approximately 100,000 miles, enough to wrap around the Earth about 4 times. This extensive system is responsible for transporting oxygen, nutrients, hormones and waste products throughout the body, ensuring that every cell receives what it needs to function properly. Arteries carry oxygen-rich blood from the heart to various organs and tissues, while veins return oxygen-depleted blood back to the heart for reoxygenation. Capillaries, the tiniest blood vessels, connect arteries and veins, allowing for the exchange of oxygen, carbon dioxide and other substances at the cellular level. Despite their combined length, blood vessels are incredibly thin and delicate, with some capillaries being just one cell thick. The vastness of the circulatory system highlights the complexity of the human body. The heart, which powers this network, pumps roughly 2,000 gallons of blood daily, ensuring continuous circulation. As we age, blood vessels can become less elastic due to factors such as poor diet, lack of exercise, and genetic predisposition, potentially leading to cardiovascular diseases. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle, including proper nutrition, hydration, and regular exercise, helps keep this extensive system functioning efficiently. This incredible network of blood vessels underscores just how remarkable and efficient the human body is, seamlessly working around the clock to sustain life.
Saliva plays a crucial role in the human body, aiding digestion, protecting teeth, and keeping the mouth moist. Over the course of a lifetime, the average person produces an astonishing amount, enough to fill 2 entire swimming pools. This may seem unbelievable, but the human body generates between half a litre to 1.5 litres of saliva per day. Over an average lifespan of around 70 years, this adds up to between 26,000 and 55,000 litres, which is roughly equivalent to the volume of 2 standard-sized swimming pools. Saliva is primarily composed of water, about 99%, but it also contains enzymes, proteins, electrolytes, and antibacterial compounds. One of its most important enzymes, amylase, begins the process of breaking down starches into simpler sugars before food even reaches the stomach. Saliva also plays a key role in maintaining oral health by neutralizing acids, washing away food particles, and providing antimicrobial protection against harmful bacteria that cause cavities and gum disease. Beyond digestion and oral hygiene, saliva contributes to speech by keeping the mouth lubricated, preventing dryness that can make it difficult to form words properly. It also contains growth factors that promote wound healing in the mouth, which is why oral injuries tend to heal faster than cuts on other parts of the body. While saliva production is essential, it can vary depending on hydration levels, diet, medications, and health conditions. Some people experience excessive saliva production, while others suffer from dry mouth, also known as xerostomia, which can lead to discomfort and increased risk of dental problems. Staying hydrated and maintaining good oral hygiene helps ensure that saliva continues to perform its vital functions efficiently throughout a lifetime.
Goosebumps are a fascinating physiological response that humans have inherited from their animal ancestors. Scientifically known as piloerection, this reflex occurs when tiny muscles at the base of hair follicles, called erector pili, contract in response to cold temperatures or strong emotions like fear or excitement. This reaction causes body hair to stand upright, forming the characteristic bumpy texture on the skin. While this response is mostly useless for modern humans, it once played a crucial role in survival. For our ancestors, who had much more body hair, this reflex served 2 important purposes. First, when exposed to cold, raised hairs would trap more air close to the skin, creating an insulating layer to retain body heat. This helped early humans and other mammals stay warm in harsh conditions. Second, in moments of fear or confrontation, raised hair made an animal appear larger and more intimidating to potential threats, much like how a cat's fur stands on end when it feels threatened. Though humans have lost most of their body hair over time, the neural pathways that control goosebumps remain. Today, this reflex is triggered not only by cold, but also by intense emotions, such as listening to powerful music, experiencing nostalgia, or feeling extreme excitement or fear. This happens because the reaction is controlled by the sympathetic nervous system, which is also responsible for the fight-or-flight response. While goosebumps no longer serve a significant functional purpose in modern humans of our evolutionary past, scientists continue to study this reflex, and some research suggests that it may still play a minor role in regulating skin health by triggering hair follicle stem cells, potential regeneration.
The human brain is an incredibly complex organ that relies on a constant supply of oxygen to function properly. When oxygen flow is interrupted, brain cells begin to die rapidly. On average, the brain can survive only 5 to 10 minutes without oxygen before significant, often irreversible, damage occurs. This condition, known as cerebral hypoxia, can lead to severe cognitive and physical impairments, coma, or even death if oxygen deprivation is prolonged. Within the first 60 seconds of oxygen deprivation, brain cells begin to struggle as they rely on stored energy to keep functioning. However, without fresh oxygen, the brain quickly depletes its energy reserves. By 3 minutes, neurons start to die, and permanent brain damage becomes a real risk. At 5 minutes, severe damage is almost certain, especially in areas responsible for memory, reasoning, and motor function. Beyond 10 minutes, survival becomes unlikely without medical intervention. And even if a person is revived, they may suffer from long-term impairments due to widespread brain cell death. Despite these risks, certain factors can influence how long the brain can withstand oxygen deprivation. For example, lower temperatures slow down metabolic processes, which is why some drowning victims in icy water have been revived after much longer periods without oxygen. Medical procedures, such as therapeutic hypothermia, where a patient's body temperature is deliberately lowered, can sometimes extend the survival window by reducing the brain's oxygen demand. Understanding the brain's vulnerability to oxygen deprivation is crucial in medical emergencies such as strokes, heart attacks, or near drownings. Immediate action, like performing CPR or using a defibrillator, can help restore oxygen flow before permanent brain damage occurs. This highlights the importance of quick medical intervention when dealing with any situation that restricts oxygen supply to the brain.
Your pinky finger, despite being the smallest digit on your hand, plays a surprisingly crucial role in hand strength. It is responsible for approximately 50% of your hand's grip strength, making it far more important than most people realize. While the thumb is essential for dexterity and precision, the pinky acts as a stabilizer, providing power and control when gripping objects, making fists, or performing fine motor tasks. The pinky's strength comes from its connection to the ulnar side of the hand, which is supported by the ulnar nerve and forearm muscles. When you grip something, the pinky and ring finger work together to create a strong foundation, allowing the thumb and index finger to manipulate objects with precision. This is why athletes, musicians, and manual laborers rely heavily on their pinky fingers for power and endurance. Rock climbers, for example, depend on their pinky fingers to maintain grip strength when hanging from ledges, while pianists and guitarists use them to execute complex movements. If the pinky were injured or lost, a person would experience a significant reduction in grip strength. Studies have shown that removing the pinky can cut hand strength in half, while losing the index or middle finger results in far less impact. This is why injuries to the pinky, such as fractures or nerve damage, can severely affect a person's ability to grip, lift and hold objects. The next time you use your hands for everyday tasks, take a moment to appreciate your pinky finger. It may seem small and insignificant, but without it, your hand's strength and functionality would be dramatically weakened.
Humans continuously shed their skin, releasing about 600,000 tiny skin particles every hour. This means that over the course of a single day, a person can shed nearly 1.5 pounds, or 0.7 kilograms, of dead skin cells. The process is completely natural and essential for skin renewal, helping to remove old damaged cells and replace them with fresh, healthy ones. The outermost layer of skin, known as the epidermis, constantly regenerates itself. Skin cells, or keratinocytes, are produced in the deeper layers of the epidermis and gradually move toward the surface. Once they reach the top, they die and flake off, making room for new cells. This cycle occurs approximately every 28 to 40 days, meaning that you essentially get a new outer layer of skin every month. These microscopic flakes of skin don't just disappear, they accumulate in your surroundings. A significant portion of household dust is actually made up of dead skin cells. While this might sound unappealing, it plays an unexpected role in nature. The shed skin provides food for dust mites, tiny organisms that thrive in bedding, carpets, and upholstery. Additionally, these skin particles contribute to the Earth's atmosphere, making up part of the biological material floating in the air. The amount of skin a person sheds can vary based on factors like age, skin type, and environment. Dry skin conditions, sun exposure, and frequent washing can increase shedding, while moisturized and healthy skin may lose fewer cells. Although this process is invisible to the naked eye, it's a constant part of being human, ensuring our skin stays fresh, healthy, and resilient throughout our lives.
The human liver is one of the most remarkable organs in the body, possessing a unique ability to regenerate itself even after losing up to 75% of its mass. Unlike most organs, which heal through scar tissue formation, the liver can actually regrow to its original size and function without permanent loss of ability. This extraordinary trait makes liver transplants and partial liver donations possible, as a healthy portion of a liver can regenerate in both the donor and recipient. Liver regeneration is driven by hepatocytes, the main type of liver cell. When a significant part of the liver is removed or damaged, these cells quickly multiply to restore lost tissue. Within a week or two, the liver can regain much of its original mass, and over the course of several months, it typically returns to full function. However, while the liver can regrow to its original size, it may not always return to its exact original shape. This is why transplanted liver sections may look slightly different after regeneration. This regenerative power has been known for centuries, even appearing in Greek mythology. The tale of Prometheus, who was punished by the gods by having his liver eaten daily by an eagle, only for it to regrow overnight, was an early recognition of this liver property. Despite its ability to regrow, the liver is not invincible. Chronic liver diseases such as cirrhosis and hepatitis can cause long-term damage and prevent proper regeneration. Excessive alcohol consumption, fatty liver disease, and exposure to toxins can lead to scar tissue formation, fibrosis, which ultimately reduces the liver's ability to heal itself. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle, including a balanced diet, moderate alcohol consumption, and avoiding harmful chemicals, ensures that this vital organ continues to function optimally. The liver's regeneration ability makes it a crucial focus for medical research. Scientists are exploring ways to enhance this natural healing process to treat liver diseases more effectively. Some studies are even looking into bioengineered livers and regenerative medicine to help patients with severe liver damage. This extraordinary organ remains one of the most fascinating and resilient parts of the human body, capable of self-repairing in ways that few other organs can.
Babies are born with more bones than adults, approximately 300 compared to an adult's 206. This fascinating fact is due to the way the human skeleton develops over time. Many of a newborn's bones are made of cartilage, a flexible and softer tissue that allows for easier movement during birth and rapid growth in early life. As the child grows, these cartilage structures gradually ossify or turn into solid bone through a process called endochondral ossification. One of the main reasons babies have extra bones is that some larger adult bones start out as multiple smaller bones that later fuse together. A great example of this is the skull. At birth, a baby's skull is made up of several separate bones connected by soft gaps called fontanelles. These flexible gaps allow the skull to shift slightly during childbirth, making delivery easier and accommodating rapid brain growth in infancy. Over time, the skull bones gradually fuse, forming the solid structure found in adults. Another area where bone fusion occurs is the spine. Babies are born with 33 vertebrae, but some of these vertebrae eventually merge, particularly in the sacrum and coccyx or tailbone, reducing the total count in adulthood. Similarly, the hip bones start as 3 separate bones, the ilium, ischium, and pubis, but fuse together during adolescence to form a single strong structure. This natural bone fusion process is essential for creating a stronger and more rigid skeleton that can support walking, running, and other adult movements. While infants need more flexibility for growth and early development, adults require sturdier, fully formed bones for stability and protection. Understanding how bones change from birth to adulthood is not just a fascinating biological fact. It also plays an important role in pediatrics and orthopedics. Medical professionals carefully monitor infant bone development to ensure proper growth and identify any potential issues early on. This is why babies are sometimes checked for conditions like hip dysplasia, where improper bone development can lead to future mobility problems. In essence, the extra bones in babies are not extra in the sense that they remain separate forever. Rather, they represent an early-stage blueprint of the adult skeleton, evolving through fusion as the body matures. This remarkable transformation highlights the human body's ability to adapt, grow, and strengthen over time.
Your stomach has to produce a new layer of mucus every 2 weeks to protect itself from its own acid. This is because the stomach contains hydrochloric acid, also known as HCl, a powerful substance with a pH of around 1.5 to 3.5, which is strong enough to break down food and potentially digest the stomach itself if left unchecked. To prevent this from happening, the stomach relies on a protective mucus layer, which is continuously replenished. The stomach plays a crucial role in digestion, breaking down food into nutrients that the body can absorb. This process is aided by gastric acid, which helps dissolve food, kill harmful bacteria, and activate digestive enzymes like pepsin, which breaks down proteins. However, because hydrochloric acid is so corrosive, the stomach must have a way to protect its own tissues from being damaged. The stomach lining is covered in a thick layer of mucus, primarily made of mucin, a glycoprotein that forms a gel-like barrier. This mucus traps bicarbonate ions, which help neutralize the acid near the stomach lining, creating a pH gradient with an extremely acidic environment inside the stomach, but a much more neutral layer right against the stomach wall. Because stomach acid is constantly breaking down food and mixing with mucus, the mucus layer wears away over time. To maintain its protective function, specialized cells in the stomach lining, called mucus neck cells and surface epithelial cells, continuously secrete fresh mucus. This ensures that the stomach lining remains safe. This regeneration process occurs roughly every 2 weeks, though in some cases it can happen even faster. If the stomach fails to produce enough mucus, the acid can begin to damage the epithelial cells of the stomach lining, leading to irritation, inflammation, or even ulcers. Stomach ulcers, also known as peptic ulcers, can develop when this protective barrier is compromised, often due to factors like H. pylori bacteria. These bacteria can weaken the mucus layer, making the stomach lining more vulnerable to acid damage. Long-term use of NSAIDs, or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, medications like aspirin or ibuprofen can inhibit mucus production, increasing the risk of ulcers. Excessive alcohol consumption. Alcohol can erode the stomach lining and reduce mucus production. Stress and spicy foods, while these don't directly cause ulcers, they can aggravate existing stomach issues. The ability of the stomach to continuously renew its mucus barrier is an amazing example of how the body protects itself. This self-repair system ensures that despite constantly dealing with corrosive acid, the stomach remains healthy and functional. Without this ongoing process, the stomach would essentially begin digesting itself, leading to severe damage and pain. This is why maintaining a balanced diet, avoiding excessive use of NSAIDs, and managing stress can all contribute to a healthier stomach lining and better digestion overall.
The surface area of your lungs is roughly the size of a tennis court. The human lungs are remarkable organs designed for efficient gas exchange, allowing the body to absorb oxygen and expel carbon dioxide. Despite being compactly housed within the chest, their internal surface area is approximately 70 square meters, roughly the size of a tennis court. This vast surface area is crucial for maximizing oxygen absorption, supporting the body's energy needs. Why do lungs need such a large surface area? Gas exchange occurs in the lungs at the level of the alveoli, which are tiny air sacs that resemble clusters of grapes. There are about 300 to 600 million alveoli in an adult's lungs, and their thin, flexible walls allow oxygen to diffuse into the bloodstream while removing carbon dioxide. The large surface area ensures that oxygen intake is highly efficient, even during physical exertion, when the body's oxygen demand increases. The reason for this immense surface area is simple physics. The more surface available, the more gas can be exchanged at once. This allows the lungs to process about 11,000 litres or 388 cubic feet of air per day under normal conditions. Without such a high surface area, humans would struggle to take in enough oxygen to support cellular metabolism. The lungs are structured in a way that maximizes surface area while remaining compact. This is achieved by branching airways. The trachea splits into two bronchi, which further divide into bronchioles before leading to the alveoli. This branching pattern increases surface area without requiring excessive space. Thin alveolar walls. The alveoli are lined with a single layer of epithelial cells, making it easier for gases to diffuse efficiently. Surfactant production. A special substance called pulmonary surfactant prevents alveoli from collapsing, maintaining their ability to expand and exchange gases. What happens when lung surface area is reduced? Certain lung diseases can damage alveoli or reduce their function, leading to decreased surface area and impaired breathing. For example, emphysema, a type of COPD, destroys alveolar walls, reducing surface area and making it harder to absorb oxygen. Pulmonary fibrosis thickens lung tissue, making oxygen diffusion more difficult. Smoking and pollution can damage alveoli over time, leading to reduced lung capacity. The fact that our lungs have a surface area equivalent to a tennis court is a testament to their efficiency and complexity. This vast area ensures that our bodies receive enough oxygen to sustain life while removing waste gases. Protecting lung health through regular exercise, avoiding smoking, and minimizing exposure to air pollutants can help maintain their function and keep this incredible respiratory system working at its best.
Valles Marineris is the largest canyon system in the entire solar system, and it's an awe-inspiring example of the dramatic geological features that exist beyond Earth. Located near the Martian equator, this colossal canyon stretches for about 2,500 miles. That's over 10 times longer than Earth's Grand Canyon, which spans roughly 277 miles. In fact, if Valles Marineris were on Earth, it would stretch all the way across the United States from coast to coast. Its depths reach up to 7 miles in some areas, making it not just long but incredibly deep, about 4 times deeper than the Grand Canyon. The origin of Valles Marineris remains a subject of ongoing study, but scientists believe it was likely formed by tectonic activity, the stretching and cracking of Mars' crust as the planet cooled. This process may have been intensified by the nearby Tharsis volcanic region, a vast bulge on the Martian surface home to Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. As volcanic forces pushed up the crust, it may have caused the land to split and collapse, creating the vast trench system we see today. What makes Valles Marineris even more fascinating is the complexity of its landscape. It's not just one canyon, but a network of interconnected valleys, cliffs and channels, some of which show evidence of past water flow. This has made the region an area of interest in the search for past Martian life, as water is a key ingredient for life as we know it. Over the years, spacecraft like NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter have sent back stunning images of the canyon's jagged cliffs and layered sediments, revealing a history written in stone that spans billions of years. In short, Valles Marineris is one of the most breathtaking and scientifically intriguing landmarks on Mars, a reminder that even though Mars may seem like a barren desert world, it's home to some of the most extreme and mysterious landscapes in our solar system.
One of the oldest and simplest pieces of evidence that the Earth is round comes from something people have observed for thousands of years: the curved shadow Earth casts on the Moon during a lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse occurs when the Earth moves directly between the Sun and the Moon, blocking sunlight and casting a shadow on the Moon's surface. During this event, the shadow that slowly creeps across the Moon is always curved, a consistent arc that reveals the shape of the object casting it. The Greek philosopher Aristotle was one of the earliest thinkers to use this observation as proof of Earth's roundness around 350 BCE. He noted that the shadow Earth cast during an eclipse is round regardless of the Moon's position in the sky or the time of year. If Earth were flat, its shadow would not consistently appear circular. It might be elongated, oval, or even a straight line depending on the angle. But since only a spherical object always casts a round shadow, this was strong evidence, even in ancient times, that the Earth is a sphere. Lunar eclipses also helped early astronomers understand Earth's size and orientation in space. By carefully measuring the shadow's movement across the moon, scientists were able to estimate Earth's diameter long before the invention of telescopes or satellites. These early measurements weren't perfect, but they were surprisingly close, showing just how powerful simple observations can be. Today we have countless ways to confirm Earth's shape, from satellite imagery to circumnavigation, but the lunar eclipse remains one of the most elegant and accessible demonstrations. Anyone on the night side of Earth can witness this natural event with the naked eye and see firsthand a beautiful and ancient truth. Our planet is not flat, it's a sphere, silently tracing its shadow across the sky.
The Moon, Earth's only natural satellite, is slowly but steadily drifting away from our planet at a rate of about 1.5 inches or 3.8 centimeters per year. While this might not sound like much, it's a fascinating and important phenomenon that reveals a lot about the intricate gravitational relationship between Earth and the Moon. This movement is caused by tidal forces, the same forces responsible for the rising and falling of Earth's oceans. Here's how it works. The gravitational pull of the Moon creates bulges in Earth's oceans, leading to tides. However, because Earth rotates faster than the Moon orbits, these tidal bulges are always slightly ahead of the Moon in its orbit. The gravitational interaction between these bulges and the Moon acts like a kind of tug, pulling the Moon forward in its orbit. As a result, the Moon gains energy and gradually moves into a higher orbit, in other words, farther from Earth. At the same time, Earth is giving up some of its rotational energy to the Moon. This means that as the Moon moves away, Earth's rotation is very slowly slowing down, causing our days to get longer by about 2 milliseconds per century. Billions of years ago, days were much shorter, and the Moon appeared larger in the sky because it was closer. In the distant future, this process may lead to what's called tidal locking, where Earth's rotation slows enough to match the Moon's orbital period, possibly resulting in both always showing the same face to each other. However, that would take billions more years, long after humans are likely around to see it. Scientists have been able to measure the Moon's slow retreat with incredible precision using laser reflectors left on the lunar surface during the Apollo missions. By bouncing lasers off these reflectors, researchers can measure the Earth-Moon distance down to the millimeter. This ongoing shift is not only a testament to the dynamism of our Earth-Moon system, but also a great example of how ancient cosmic forces continue to shape our world even today.
Venus is a fascinating and extreme world, and despite being the second planet from the Sun, it is the hottest in the solar system, a fact that often surprises people. You'd think Mercury, being closest to the Sun, would be the hottest, but Mercury lacks a significant atmosphere, while Venus is enveloped in a thick, toxic blanket of gases that completely changes the game. Venus's atmosphere is composed of about 96% carbon dioxide, along with clouds of sulfuric acid, making it both chemically harsh and extremely effective at trapping heat. This thick atmospheric layer acts like a thermal blanket, causing what's known as a runaway greenhouse effect. Here's how it works. Sunlight passes through Venus's clouds and heats the surface. The hot surface then radiates this energy as infrared heat. On Earth, much of this infrared radiation escapes back into space, but Venus's dense atmosphere traps it. The carbon dioxide molecules absorb and re-emit this heat over and over, preventing it from escaping and causing the planet's temperature to climb and stay at an average of around 900 degrees Fahrenheit, or 475 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to melt lead, and even hotter than some surfaces on Mercury during the day. And unlike Mercury, which has extreme temperature swings between day and night because it can't hold heat without an atmosphere, Venus's heat is evenly distributed, so both its day and night sides remain blisteringly hot. Adding to its intensity, Venus's atmosphere is over 90 times the pressure of Earth's, meaning that if you stood on its surface, assuming you could survive the heat and the toxic air, the pressure would feel like being nearly a kilometer underwater on Earth. The thick cloud layers also make direct observation of the surface from space nearly impossible with visible light, which is why scientists have used radar mapping, such as from the Magellan spacecraft, to peer through the clouds and study the terrain. Interestingly, scientists believe Venus may have once had Earth-like conditions with liquid water on its surface billions of years ago. But a combination of volcanic activity, solar radiation, and the buildup of greenhouse gases likely led to the extreme conditions we see today. Venus serves as a stark reminder of how delicate planetary climates can be. and it's often studied as a cautionary example of climate change taken to the extreme. So, while Venus may look serene and beautiful in the sky as the evening star, it's an unforgiving hellscape below the clouds. A world where heat is inescapable, pressure is crushing, and the atmosphere is a deadly chemical soup.
Welcome to the mesmerizing world of Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Known for its unique and intriguing features, Titan offers a glimpse into a realm that feels almost otherworldly. Saturn's largest moon, Titan, is one of the most fascinating worlds in the solar system, and not just because it looks like a sci-fi landscape. One of the most mind-blowing facts about Titan is that it contains more oil and natural gas than all of Earth's known reserves combined. But unlike Earth, where hydrocarbons are buried underground and formed over millions of years from organic matter, Titan's version of oil, liquid methane and ethane, exists naturally on its surface and in its atmosphere, forming entire lakes, rivers and even rain systems. Discovered in detail by NASA's Cassini-Huygens mission, Titan is the only other body in the solar system known to have stable liquids on its surface, though they aren't water. Instead, temperatures on Titan hover around a frigid -290 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough for methane and ethane, which are gases on Earth, to exist as liquids. These hydrocarbons fill massive lakes and seas, particularly near the Moon's polar regions. The largest of these, Kraken Mare, is roughly the size of the Caspian Sea and could be hundreds of feet deep. Scientists estimate that the total volume of hydrocarbons on Titan, both on the surface and potentially underground, exceeds Earth's oil and natural gas reserves by hundreds of times. Titan's thick atmosphere, rich in nitrogen and methane, raises intriguing possibilities about the potential for life. While the surface is too cold for liquid water, scientists speculate that subsurface oceans of water mixed with ammonia could exist, providing a potentially habitable environment. The presence of complex organic molecules adds another layer of mystery, suggesting that Titan could be a key place to study prebiotic chemistry and the conditions that might foster life. The atmosphere of Titan, which is thicker than Earth's, is also rich in organic compounds. It's mostly nitrogen, like Earth's, but it contains significant amounts of methane and other complex hydrocarbons that contribute to its thick orange haze. These organic chemicals fall like snow and accumulate on the surface, forming what some scientists call organic sand dunes. This abundance of carbon-based compounds makes Titan one of the most chemically rich environments outside Earth and a prime candidate in the search for prebiotic chemistry or even primitive life. However, extracting or using Titan's hydrocarbon resources is purely hypothetical at this point. The extreme cold and its great distance from Earth, about 746 million miles or 1.2 billion kilometers away, make it wildly impractical with today's technology. But Titan offers an invaluable glimpse into what an alien Earth-like world might look like, complete with weather, seasons, and even methane rainstorms. It's not only a treasure trove of natural resources, but a place that challenges and expands our understanding of planetary science and the potential for life in the cosmos.
A groundbreaking new space mission by the European Space Agency is set to launch in April 2025 with the goal of revolutionizing how we monitor Earth's forests. Known as the Biomass Mission, this project will deploy a satellite designed to map and analyze the carbon content of the world's most remote tropical forests. These forests play a vital role in regulating the planet's climate, acting as massive carbon sinks that absorb about 8 billion tons of CO2 each year. However, current monitoring methods are limited in their ability to see through dense vegetation, making it difficult to measure changes in forest structure and carbon storage with precision. To overcome this challenge, the biomass satellite will be equipped with an advanced P-band synthetic aperture radar and a 12-meter deployable antenna, one of the largest ever used in Earth observation. This unique radar system is capable of penetrating thick forest canopies and capturing detailed three-dimensional images of the trees and vegetation below. This technology will allow scientists to gather data not just about the surface, but about the height and density of biomass, providing a far more complete picture of how much carbon is being stored and how it changes over time. The mission will focus primarily on tropical regions across Africa, Asia, and South America, which are home to the densest and most carbon-rich forests on the planet. Over a 5-year span, the satellite will continually monitor these forests to track changes caused by deforestation, reforestation, and natural events like wildfires. This long-term data collection is expected to significantly enhance our understanding of the carbon cycle and improve global climate change models, especially as forest ecosystems respond to both human activity and environmental stressors. One of the most exciting aspects of the biomass mission is its integration with artificial intelligence and machine learning tools. By feeding the satellite's high-resolution data into advanced algorithms, scientists can detect subtle patterns and predict future changes in forest health and carbon storage. This will not only help in verifying global carbon emissions targets, but also guide conservation policies and sustainable land use planning. In essence, this mission represents a powerful new way to keep track of one of Earth's most critical resources, its forests, from space.
One of the most awe-inspiring future events in the cosmos is the predicted collision between the Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy, set to occur in approximately 4.5 billion years. Both galaxies are massive spiral galaxies, each containing hundreds of billions of stars, and are currently hurtling toward each other at a speed of about 110 kilometers per second, or 68 miles per second. Despite this enormous speed, because of the vast distances in space, they're currently about 2.5 million light-years apart. This galactic encounter will unfold slowly over the course of billions of years. Astronomers believe that rather than a sudden crash, the two galaxies will gradually merge, engaging in a long gravitational dance that reshapes them both. This future collision is not an unexpected event. In fact, it's a natural part of how galaxies evolve. Galaxies often grow by merging with others, and both the Milky Way and Andromeda have already absorbed smaller galaxies in their histories. When the two giants finally meet, their massive gravitational forces will pull and twist one another, disrupting their structures, flinging stars into new orbits, and ultimately creating an entirely new galaxy, often referred to by astronomers as Milkomeda or Milkdromeda. Over time, this new galaxy is expected to settle into a large elliptical shape, quite different from the spiral structures both galaxies have now. One common question is whether this collision will destroy Earth or our solar system. The answer is no, at least not likely. Galaxies are mostly empty space, and stars are so far apart that direct star-to-star collisions are incredibly rare. What will happen, however, is that the gravitational forces during the merger may alter the position of our solar system within the newly formed galaxy. Earth might end up much farther from the galactic center, or closer, but it's unlikely to be ejected entirely or destroyed. However, by the time this cosmic event takes place, the Sun will be nearing the end of its life cycle, expanding into a red giant and possibly making Earth uninhabitable regardless of galactic collisions. Astronomers have been able to predict this future event with increasing accuracy thanks to powerful telescopes like the Hubble Space Telescope and advanced simulations. By observing the motion of stars and gas clouds in both galaxies, scientists have tracked their trajectories and used computer models to simulate their future paths. The impending merger between the Milky Way and Andromeda is a vivid reminder of the dynamic, ever-changing nature of the universe, and though it's far beyond any human timescale, it represents one of the most dramatic events that will ever affect our cosmic neighborhood.
One of the most mind-blowing and oddly entertaining facts about space is the existence of a massive cloud of alcohol floating out in the cosmos, big enough to make an estimated 400 trillion pints of beer. This enormous alcohol cloud is found in a star-forming region known as Sagittarius B2, located about 390 light-years from the center of our Milky Way galaxy, near the Sagittarius constellation. It's a gigantic interstellar cloud composed of various molecules, including a type of alcohol called ethyl alcohol, ethanol, the same kind found in alcoholic beverages. This isn't your average six-pack, though. The alcohol in Sagittarius B2 is spread out across a vast area, about 1,000 times the diameter of our entire solar system, and it's mixed with a cocktail of other complex organic molecules, gases, and dust. It's far from drinkable due to the extreme cold, around -240 degrees Celsius or -400 degrees Fahrenheit, and the fact that it also contains toxic compounds like methanol, formaldehyde, and hydrogen cyanide. Still, the sheer quantity of ethanol present, about 10 billion litres, is a striking demonstration of the complex chemistry that takes place in interstellar space. The discovery of this cloud has profound scientific importance beyond its novelty. It shows that organic molecules, the building blocks of life, can form in the harshest and most remote environments of the universe. These molecules are likely formed on the surfaces of icy dust grains inside cold molecular clouds and then released into the gas phase as the regions are warmed by newly forming stars. Studying these compounds gives astronomers clues about how the ingredients for life could be distributed across the galaxy, and possibly even delivered to forming planets via comets or meteorites. While no one is launching a space brewery anytime soon, the existence of this alcohol cloud is a perfect example of how strange and surprising the universe can be. It blends humour with hard science, making it a fan-favourite fact among space lovers, and beyond the fun headlines, it's a reminder that the cosmos is chemically rich and full of mysteries, some of which may help us better understand not only the formation of stars and planets, but even the origins of life itself.
Many people recognize the Big Dipper as one of the most iconic and easily identifiable patterns in the night sky. But what's often misunderstood is that the Big Dipper isn't actually a constellation. It's an asterism. An asterism is a recognizable pattern of stars that forms part of a larger constellation. In this case, the Big Dipper is an asterism within the much larger constellation Ursa Major, which means Great Bear in Latin. The Big Dipper is made up of 7 bright stars, 4 that form the bowl and 3 that make up the handle. These stars are Dubhe, Merak, Phecda, Megrez, Alioth, Mizar and Alkaid. While they appear close together from our vantage point on Earth, they actually lie at varying distances from us, and not all of them are physically related. However, 5 of the stars in the Big Dipper belong to a moving group called the Ursa Major moving group, meaning they travel through space in the same direction and are likely to have formed together from the same stellar nursery. The full constellation of Ursa Major contains many more stars beyond those in the Big Dipper, and it stretches across a larger portion of the sky. In mythology, Ursa Major is often depicted as a bear, with the Big Dipper forming its hindquarters and tail. The constellation has deep roots in many cultures around the world, and has inspired legends among the Greeks, Native Americans, Chinese and many others. The Big Dipper is also astronomically useful. Its 2 outermost stars, Dubhe and Merak, are often called the pointer stars, because they form a line that points directly to Polaris, the North Star, which lies in the nearby constellation Ursa Minor. This makes the Big Dipper a valuable tool for navigation in the Northern Hemisphere. Though it's not a constellation in its own right, the Big Dipper remains one of the most well-known star patterns in the world, both a cultural icon and a practical guidepost in the sky.
One of the most fascinating geological features in our solar system is found on Io, one of Jupiter's largest moons, a volcano that is constantly erupting. In fact, Io isn't just home to a single active volcano, it is the most volcanically active body in the entire solar system, with hundreds of volcanoes, many of which erupt frequently and some almost constantly. Among the most prominent of these is Loki Patera, a massive volcanic depression that behaves like a lava lake and undergoes regular outbursts. Io's incredible volcanic activity is due to an intense process called tidal heating. As Io orbits Jupiter, it's caught in a gravitational tug-of-war between the massive planet and its neighbouring moons, Europa and Ganymede. This constant gravitational squeezing stretches and flexes Io's interior, generating tremendous heat through friction. This heat melts rock into magma, fueling continuous volcanic activity. The result is a surface that is constantly changing, covered in fresh lava flows, sulfuric deposits, and volcanic pits. The volcanoes on Io are unlike anything on Earth. Some of them erupt with plumes of gas and molten rock that can shoot hundreds of kilometers into space, towering far above the moon's surface. The materials ejected during these eruptions, mostly sulfur and sulfur dioxide, give Io its bizarre, colourful appearance, with areas shaded in yellow, red, white and even green. NASA's Galileo spacecraft and the Voyager missions first captured these eruptions, and later telescopes and observations from spacecraft like Juno have continued to monitor the Moon's fiery surface. Despite its distance from Earth and its extreme environment, Io has become a key object of study for planetary scientists. It offers a look at how tidal forces can dramatically shape a celestial body, and it helps researchers understand how similar processes might work on exoplanets or early planetary bodies in our own solar system. With its relentless volcanic fury and dynamic landscape, Io stands as one of the most alien yet active worlds we've discovered, proof that even far from the Sun, planetary bodies can be surprisingly alive.
One of the most surprising facts about pineapples is just how long they take to grow, typically around 2 years from planting to harvest. Unlike many fruits that develop quickly each season, pineapples are slow-growing tropical plants that require patience and consistent care. The process starts with planting the crown, the spiky top of the fruit, which then develops into a rosette of long, sword-like leaves. Over the next year or so, the plant gradually matures until it finally produces a single flower stalk from its center, which eventually forms the pineapple fruit. The flower itself is actually a cluster of up to 200 individual flowers, each producing a tiny fruit. These mini-fruits fuse together to create the familiar pineapple we know. Once the fruit starts forming, it still takes several more months to ripen fully. This slow process is part of why pineapples are more expensive and considered a special treat in many parts of the world. And after all that effort, each pineapple plant produces only one fruit at a time, though it may produce a few more from side shoots later. Pineapples thrive in warm, sunny climates and are commonly grown in countries like Costa Rica, the Philippines, Thailand, and Hawaii. Pineapples need well-drained soil and regular watering, but too much water can lead to root rot. Because they're not grown from seeds and take so long to mature, pineapple farming requires careful long-term planning and space. This long growth cycle also adds to their symbolic meaning in many cultures. Pineapples have traditionally represented hospitality, wealth, and patience. And given how long they take to grow, that symbolism makes a lot of sense. So the next time you enjoy a slice of pineapple, it's worth remembering the 2 years of sunshine, water, and time it took to get to your plate.
It might sound strange today, but in the 1830s, ketchup was actually sold as medicine in the United States. Unlike the tomato-based condiment we know and love today, early ketchup recipes were quite different and evolved over time. From fermented fish sauces in ancient Asia to mushroom ketchups in 18th century Europe. But it was American physician Dr. John Cook Bennett who popularized the idea of using tomato-based ketchup for its supposed medicinal properties. Dr. Bennett claimed that tomatoes could treat a wide range of ailments, including diarrhea, indigestion, jaundice, and rheumatism. He published articles promoting the health benefits of tomatoes, helping to shift public perception at a time when many believed tomatoes were actually poisonous due to their relation to the deadly nightshade plant. Bennett eventually collaborated with manufacturers to produce tomato pills, which were essentially condensed forms of ketchup marketed as a cure-all remedy. This marketing strategy caught on quickly, and various entrepreneurs jumped on the bandwagon, selling ketchup-based pills and syrups as over-the-counter medicine. However, the trend didn't last long. By the late 1840s, medical professionals began to debunk these health claims, and ketchup's status as a medicine faded. It wasn't until later in the 19th century that ketchup transformed into the sweet and tangy condiment we recognize today, thanks to companies like Heinz, which introduced mass production and added sugar and vinegar to improve flavor and shelf life. The idea of ketchup as medicine is a quirky chapter in the history of both food and medicine, reflecting how much science and consumer understanding has evolved. It also highlights the role of marketing in shaping public beliefs, even when the product in question is something as unexpected as a burger topping.
One of the simple yet fascinating facts about apples is that they float in water, a quality that's made them a staple in party games like bobbing for apples. But the reason behind this fun fact is grounded in science. About 25% of an apple's volume is made up of air. This high air content reduces the fruit's overall density, making it less dense than water, which causes it to float. Apples have a spongy, porous structure, especially in the flesh just beneath the skin. This structure includes numerous tiny air pockets that are invisible to the naked eye, but make a big difference when it comes to buoyancy. When you drop an apple into water, these trapped air pockets act like tiny flotation devices, helping the apple remain on the surface instead of sinking. This air content doesn't just affect whether an apple floats, it also plays a role in texture and crunchiness. Apples with more air tend to feel crisper and lighter when you bite into them. As apples age, they begin to lose moisture and air, which is why they can become mealy or soft over time. So, in a way, an apple's ability to float can even give you a little clue about its freshness. Beyond party tricks and texture, the air in apples has a practical impact in agriculture and food processing too. It helps with storage and shipping, since apples with good structure are less likely to bruise or be damaged. And for cider makers and food scientists, understanding the apple's cellular makeup, including its air content, is essential for quality control. So next time you see an apple bobbing in a tub of water, you're really seeing a clever combination of nature and physics at work.
Most people think of carrots as bright orange, but what many don't know is that carrots were originally purple, along with red, yellow, and even white varieties. The earliest domesticated carrots, believed to have originated around 3,000 years ago in Central Asia, especially in regions of modern-day Iran and Afghanistan, were often deep purple or yellow. These ancient varieties were cultivated more for their medicinal properties and seeds than as a common food crop. The purple pigment in these early carrots came from anthocyanins, a group of powerful antioxidants found in many deeply coloured fruits and vegetables. These early carrots were sometimes more bitter and fibrous compared to the modern orange versions we're familiar with today. Over time, as carrots were cultivated across different regions and climates, farmers began selecting for different traits, such as sweeter taste, smoother texture, and a more appealing appearance. The orange carrot, as we know it today, is believed to have been developed in the 17th century in the Netherlands. Dutch growers, possibly as a tribute to the House of Orange, the ruling royal family, selectively bred yellow and white carrot varieties to produce the bright orange root. These new orange carrots were not only more aesthetically appealing, but also contained higher levels of beta-carotene, a compound the body converts into vitamin A, which is essential for vision and immune function. Today, purple carrots are making a comeback as a nutritional superfood, thanks to their high levels of anthocyanins and novelty appeal. You can now find a rainbow of carrots in stores and farmers markets, including purple, red, yellow and white, as chefs and consumers rediscover the diverse history of this humble root vegetable. So while orange carrots may dominate supermarket shelves, their vibrant ancestors continue to remind us of the rich and colourful story behind one of the world's most beloved vegetables.
Avocados are often called green gold for their rich flavour, creamy texture and booming popularity. But did you know that a single avocado tree can produce up to 500 avocados a year? That's a remarkable yield, especially considering that many trees average around 150 to 200 fruits annually, depending on their age, variety and growing conditions. With the right care, mature trees, especially those grown in optimal climates, can reach that impressive 500 fruit benchmark. Avocado trees, particularly the Hass variety, are known for their alternating fruiting cycles, also called biennial bearing or alternate bearing. This means they may produce a large crop one year, followed by a smaller yield the next. The number of avocados a tree produces is influenced by factors such as sunlight, water, soil health, pruning practices, and even pollination. Since avocados have a somewhat unusual flowering system with male and female phases that occur at different times of day, growers often plant multiple varieties together to boost cross-pollination and fruit production. It's also worth noting that avocado trees take several years to mature and bear fruit. If grown from seed, they can take up to 10 years to produce. But those propagated from grafted trees, common in commercial orchards, typically bear fruit in 3 to 5 years. Once they mature, though, they can produce fruit for decades, some even over 50 years, with the right climate and care. Regions with warm temperatures and well-drained soil, like parts of California, Mexico, Peru and Israel, are ideal for large-scale avocado farming. With demand for avocados continuing to grow worldwide due to their health benefits, rich in healthy fats, fiber, and vitamins, the productivity of avocado trees has become increasingly important. One well-cared-for tree with a 500 avocado yield can be a powerhouse of nutrition and economic value, making avocados not just delicious, but also a fascinating example of how a single tree can offer bountiful and sustainable harvests year after year.
The iconic pink color of bubblegum wasn't a carefully thought-out branding decision. It happened completely by accident. When Walter Diemer, an accountant for the Fleer Chewing Gum Company, invented the first successful bubblegum in 1928, he only had pink dye available in the lab. So he used what he had, and the rest is sticky, sugary history. That first batch of bubblegum became a hit, and ever since then, pink has been associated with bubblegum, setting a standard that continues to this day. Before Diemer's discovery, many had tried to create a gum recipe that was stretchy enough to blow bubbles without being too sticky, but most failed. Diemer experimented during his off hours and finally hit upon the perfect formula that was both less sticky and more elastic, allowing people to blow bubbles with ease. His creation was marketed as Double Bubble, and it quickly became a sensation, thanks in part to its fun, eye-catching pink hue. The reason only pink dye was available at the time likely comes down to cost and availability. In the 1920s, pink coloring was one of the most common and inexpensive food dyes, and it just happened to be on hand when Diemer made his breakthrough. The unexpected success of that first batch meant there was no reason to change the color. People now associated bubblegum with pink, and companies leaned into the trend. Today, although bubblegum comes in a wide variety of colors and flavors, the classic pink bubblegum still reigns supreme in terms of nostalgia and tradition. From Diemer's accidental color choice grew an entire genre of candy branding, and pink remains a visual cue that instantly evokes the fun and light-hearted experience of chewing gum and blowing bubbles. It's a great example of how a happy accident can turn into a lasting cultural icon.
One of the most beloved frozen treats in the world, the Popsicle, was actually invented by accident by an 11-year-old boy named Frank Epperson in 1905. Living in Oakland, California, young Frank was experimenting with powdered soda mix and water, something many kids loved at the time. He stirred the mixture with a wooden stick, but then left it outside overnight, forgetting it on the porch. That night, temperatures dropped below freezing, and by morning, Frank discovered that the mixture had frozen solid, with the stick still inside. Excited by his accidental creation, Frank began making more of them, and initially called them Epsicles, a blend of his last name and icicle. His friends and family loved them, and as he grew older, he continued to make and sell them at events and amusement parks. Eventually, Frank's children encouraged him to change the name to something catchier and more fun, which is how Popsicle came to be, a playful nod to Pop's icicle. In 1923, Epperson officially patented his invention and began mass-producing popsicles through a partnership with the Joe Low Company in New York. The treat quickly caught on across the country, especially during the hot summer months and the Great Depression, when inexpensive snacks like popsicles were in high demand. Originally sold in just a few flavors, the Popsicle brand eventually expanded to dozens of varieties and became a staple of childhood joy. Today, the Popsicle is a symbol of summertime and nostalgia, but its origins are a great reminder of how creativity, curiosity, and a little bit of luck can lead to something timeless. From a forgotten soda mix to a global treat, Frank Epperson's story shows that even childhood accidents can make a big mark on the world. Sometimes all it takes is a cold night and a wooden stick.
Despite their name, peanuts are not actually nuts. They're legumes, a category of plants that includes beans, lentils and peas. This common misconception arises because peanuts look and taste like true nuts, such as almonds, walnuts and cashews, and they're often grouped with them in culinary use. But botanically speaking, the peanut plant belongs to the Fabaceae family, which is the same family as beans and peas. One of the key differences lies in how peanuts grow. Unlike tree nuts, which grow on trees, peanuts grow underground. After the peanut plant flowers, the fertilized flower stalk bends down and pushes into the soil, where the peanut pod matures beneath the surface. This is a signature trait of legumes, which typically produce their seeds in pods. True nuts, like acorns or chestnuts, develop from a single ovary and don't split open to release their seed, while peanut pods do split open and contain multiple seeds. Peanuts also share other characteristics with legumes. They are high in protein, enrich the soil with nitrogen through a symbiotic relationship with bacteria, and are a key part of crop rotation in sustainable farming. Their nutritional profile, rich in healthy fats, fiber and protein, makes them similar to tree nuts in terms of health benefits, which contributes to the confusion. Understanding that peanuts are legumes isn't just trivia, it has practical implications, especially for people with food allergies. Some individuals allergic to peanuts can safely eat tree nuts, while others might be allergic to both, so distinguishing between them is important. Still, in the kitchen and in snack aisles, peanuts continue to be treated like nuts due to their flavour, texture and versatility, making them one of the most misunderstood members of the plant kingdom.
Broccoli, despite its natural appearance, is actually a man-made vegetable that was carefully cultivated through selective breeding. It was developed from wild cabbage, a plant species native to the Mediterranean region. Ancient farmers in Italy began manipulating the plant over 2,000 years ago, choosing specific traits over generations to create a new vegetable with large flowering heads and thick stalks, the broccoli we know today. Wild cabbage is an incredibly versatile plant, and through selective breeding it has given rise to a variety of other common vegetables, including kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and kohlrabi. The differences among these vegetables come from focusing on different parts of the plant. For example, cabbage was bred for its leaves, Brussels sprouts for its buds, and broccoli for its flowering head and stem. The name broccoli comes from the Italian word broccolo, meaning the flowering crest of a cabbage. Broccoli didn't gain widespread popularity outside of Italy until much later. It was introduced to the United States by Italian immigrants in the 19th and early 20th centuries, and it took time to catch on in American kitchens. However, once its nutritional benefits, including high levels of vitamin C, fiber, calcium, and powerful antioxidants like sulforaphane, became widely recognized, broccoli became a staple in healthy diets around the world. Today, broccoli is celebrated not only for its health benefits, but also as a testament to human ingenuity in agriculture. It's a great example of how humans have shaped the food we eat through careful observation, selection, and cultivation. So while it may look like just another green vegetable, broccoli carries with it a long history of farming innovation and botanical transformation.
The tradition of carving jack-o'-lanterns has its roots in ancient Celtic folklore, specifically during the festival of Samhain, which marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter. People believed that on the night of Samhain, spirits and fairies could cross into the human world, and to protect themselves, they carved scary faces into turnips or other root vegetables, and placed them in windows or doorways to frighten away any wandering evil spirits. These eerie carvings were often illuminated with glowing coals or candles, creating a ghostly effect. The association of the jack-o'-lantern with turnips is also linked to the old Irish legend of Stingy Jack, a man who was so cunning and deceitful that he tricked the devil multiple times. When Jack died, he was denied entry to both heaven and hell, and was doomed to wander the earth with only a burning coal placed inside a carved-out turnip to light his way. People began carving their own Jack's lanterns to ward off his spirit, and the practice became a staple of Halloween traditions in Ireland and Scotland. When Irish immigrants brought their customs to North America in the 19th century, they found that pumpkins, native to the continent, were far more abundant and easier to hollow out than the tough and fibrous turnips. Pumpkins quickly replaced turnips in the Halloween tradition and gave rise to the jack-o'-lanterns we know and love today, often carved with expressive or scary faces and displayed with a candle inside during the Halloween season. The size, shape and vibrant color of pumpkins made them perfect for this festive purpose. While pumpkins are now the universal symbol of Halloween, the history of the jack-o'-lantern is deeply rooted in the cultural use of turnips as protective charms. It's a fascinating example of how traditions evolve and adapt over time and geography. Turnips may no longer sit in our windows in October, but they hold a special place in the eerie, inventive history of Halloween and remind us that even the simplest vegetables can be part of something magical.
When most people think of Antarctica, they picture an endless expanse of ice and snow, not a land teeming with hidden geological activity. But beneath its icy surface lies a vast and largely unexplored volcanic landscape, particularly beneath the West Antarctic ice sheet. In recent years, scientists have discovered over 138 volcanoes in this region, many of them completely buried under thick layers of ice. This surprising revelation has reshaped how we view the frozen continent, showing that it's not just a static wasteland, but a geologically dynamic environment. One of the most remarkable volcanoes in Antarctica is Mount Erebus, located on Ross Island. It's not only the southernmost active volcano on Earth, but also one of the few volcanoes with a persistent lava lake, a pool of molten rock that continuously bubbles and churns at its summit. This rare feature makes Erebus a valuable natural laboratory for studying volcanic processes under extreme conditions. Despite the harsh climate, scientists from around the world make the journey to study Erebus, unlocking clues about both volcanic behavior and Earth's interior. What makes the presence of these subglacial volcanoes especially significant is their potential impact on Antarctica's ice. Some of these volcanoes are believed to be still active, and the heat they release from below, called geothermal heat, could be contributing to the thinning and melting of the ice sheet. This process is particularly concerning in West Antarctica, where ice shelves are already showing signs of instability. Understanding how volcanic activity affects the ice is critical for predicting future sea level rise and the broader impacts of climate change. The discovery of such an extensive volcanic network beneath Antarctica is still relatively recent, and scientists continue to explore and map this hidden underworld using radar, satellite data and seismic studies. Each new finding challenges the idea of Antarctica as a static frozen frontier and highlights the complexity of our planet's geology. Far from being just a cold desert, Antarctica is a geological giant with secrets that could reshape our understanding of Earth's past, present and future.
Beneath the frozen expanse of Greenland lies a stunning geological surprise, a massive impact crater buried under the Hiawatha Glacier in the northwest part of the island. Discovered in 2018 by a team of scientists using ice-penetrating radar, this 31-kilometre wide or 19-mile crater is one of the largest ever found on Earth. What's remarkable is not just its size, but its preservation beneath the thick ice, which has shielded it from erosion for potentially thousands of years. This discovery has reshaped scientists' understanding of the geological history hidden beneath Greenland's seemingly unchanging ice sheet. The crater was likely formed by a meteorite more than 1 kilometre in diameter slamming into Earth with a force equivalent to millions of nuclear bombs. Such an impact would have been catastrophic, releasing immense amounts of energy, melting vast volumes of ice, and ejecting debris into the atmosphere. Some researchers speculate that it could have triggered dramatic environmental changes, potentially contributing to a sudden cooling event known as the Younger Dryas around 12,000 years ago, though the exact timing of the impact is still under debate. What makes this discovery so fascinating is how it pushes the boundaries of what we thought possible to find beneath massive ice sheets. Scientists used a combination of satellite data, radar imaging, and glaciological modelling to detect the crater's round shape and raised rim beneath more than a kilometre of ice. Samples collected from nearby rivers also revealed shocked quartz and other signs of a high-energy impact, further supporting the theory that a massive space rock struck Greenland in the relatively recent geological past. This hidden crater is not only a reminder of Earth's violent encounters with objects from space, but it also highlights the mysteries still waiting to be uncovered beneath Greenland's ice. As climate change accelerates ice melt, previously inaccessible geological features may come to light, providing crucial insights into Earth's past and its dynamic processes. Greenland, often seen only as a frozen expanse, is in fact a complex and geologically active land, still holding ancient secrets beneath its surface.
Beneath the breathtaking landscapes of Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming lies one of the most powerful geological features on Earth, the Yellowstone caldera, a massive supervolcano. Unlike typical cone-shaped volcanoes, this caldera is a vast depression formed by a catastrophic eruption about 640,000 years ago. That eruption expelled more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of ash, rock, and gas into the atmosphere, enough to blanket large portions of North America. It left behind a crater approximately 30 by 45 miles wide, which now hosts many of Yellowstone's famous geothermal wonders. This isn't Yellowstone's only massive eruption. The region has experienced at least 3 super eruptions over the past 2.1 million years, each with world-altering consequences. While the term supervolcano might sound like science fiction, it's a very real classification for volcanoes capable of ejecting over 1,000 cubic kilometers of material. These events are extremely rare, occurring perhaps once every several 100,000 years, but they can cause global climate change, disrupt ecosystems, and even impact human civilization on a continental scale. Beneath Yellowstone lies a magma chamber spanning more than 30 miles across, containing molten rock and extreme geothermal activity. This heat powers the park's geysers, hot springs, and fumaroles, making it one of the most geologically active places on Earth. While scientists closely monitor the area for signs of rising magma or unusual seismic activity, current data shows no signs of an impending eruption. Still, even a minor volcanic event in the region could have significant local impacts, which is why Yellowstone remains under constant observation. Despite its potential for destruction, the Yellowstone supervolcano is also an incredible natural laboratory for understanding the Earth's inner workings. It provides unique insights into plate tectonics, geothermal energy, and volcanic behavior. The more we study it, the better we understand not only the risks it poses, but also the dynamic, ever-changing nature of our planet. Yellowstone is a reminder that beneath the calm beauty of the American West lies a powerful force shaped by millions of years of geological evolution.
The claim that the Amazon rainforest produces 20% of the world's oxygen is one of the most widely repeated facts about the planet's most famous jungle. But it's a bit of a myth when taken at face value. The Amazon rainforest, often referred to as the lungs of the Earth, certainly plays a critical role in the global carbon and oxygen cycles. It's home to over 390 billion individual trees, each absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen during photosynthesis. At first glance, it would seem reasonable to estimate that such a massive forest could account for a significant portion of Earth's oxygen production. However, scientists now clarify that while the Amazon does produce an enormous amount of oxygen, approximately 20% of the total generated by photosynthetic processes on land, it also consumes nearly the same amount through the process of respiration and decomposition. Trees and plants use oxygen at night or during decay, and microorganisms in the soil also consume oxygen as they break down organic matter. This means that the net oxygen contribution of the Amazon is closer to zero, making it more of an oxygen recycler than a true producer. That said, the Amazon is still incredibly important for Earth's atmospheric health and climate stability. It acts as a carbon sink, absorbing vast amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and thus helping to mitigate climate change. The forest also regulates rainfall patterns across South America and even affects weather systems as far away as the United States. When parts of the Amazon are cleared or burned, not only is oxygen-producing vegetation lost, but stored carbon is released into the atmosphere, exacerbating global warming. In short, while the Amazon may not be the oxygen factory it was once believed to be, its ecological significance cannot be overstated. It supports millions of species, stabilizes regional and global climates, and sustains many indigenous communities. Protecting the Amazon is less about oxygen output and more about preserving one of Earth's most vital, complex, and irreplaceable ecosystems.
There is indeed a town in Norway where the sun doesn't rise for several months of the year. Tromsø, located well above the Arctic Circle, experiences this remarkable natural phenomenon known as the polar night. From roughly late November to mid-January, the sun remains completely below the horizon, casting the town in a unique bluish twilight for weeks on end. While it never becomes pitch dark for the entire period, thanks to some ambient light from the horizon, residents go for more than 50 consecutive days without seeing the sun. This happens because of Earth's axial tilt. As the planet orbits the sun, its tilted axis causes the Arctic Circle to lean away from the sun during winter. As a result, areas north of this circle, including northern Norway, experience prolonged periods where the sun never rises at all. Conversely, in summer, the same tilt causes the midnight sun when the sun never sets, offering 24-hour daylight for several weeks. Despite what you might expect, many locals in Tromsø adapt surprisingly well to the absence of sunlight. The town embraces this time of year with a sense of celebration, decorating homes and streets with lights, hosting winter festivals, and spending time outdoors. Mental health professionals even study Tromsø's population to understand how people cope so well with the darkness. Some credit the strong sense of community, the natural beauty of the snowy landscape, and even the magical displays of the northern lights, which are often most visible during these dark months. Tromsø's polar night is both a scientific curiosity and a cultural marvel. It offers insight into how humans adapt to extreme environmental conditions, and how our perception of time, mood, and productivity can shift with the cycles of light. While it may sound daunting to live in darkness for weeks, many residents find beauty and peace in the quiet, reflective nature of the long Arctic nights.
England's gentle hills and green countryside may not seem dramatic at first glance, but beneath this tranquil landscape lies the story of a truly colossal past. Around 400 million years ago, during a time known as the Caledonian Orogeny, England was part of a mountain range that rivaled the Himalayas in height. This ancient chain was formed when the ancient continents of Laurentia, now part of North America and Greenland, Baltica, Northern Europe and Avalonia, which included parts of modern-day England, collided. The immense pressure from these tectonic movements caused the Earth's crust to buckle and rise, forming towering mountains across what is now the British Isles. Over time, these Himalayan-scale mountains were worn down by millions of years of erosion. Natural forces like rain, wind, rivers and glaciers relentlessly ground them down into the rolling hills and valleys we see today. Although the peaks have vanished, the roots of these mighty mountains remain deep beneath the surface. In places like the Lake District, the Scottish Highlands and parts of northern England, we still find ancient igneous and metamorphic rocks, geological remnants of that dramatic mountain building era. The Lake District, in particular, is a key area where this ancient geological activity is most visible. The rugged peaks and exposed rocky outcrops there are composed of some of the oldest rocks in England, dating back over 500 million years. These rocks were once buried miles beneath the Earth's surface and have since been uplifted and exposed by erosion. This landscape tells a silent story of plate tectonics, intense heat and pressure, and the ever-changing surface of our planet. Understanding this deep-time history not only adds richness to our appreciation of England's scenery, but also highlights the dynamic nature of Earth's geology. What appears to be a stable, ancient landscape is actually the product of immense geological forces and continuous transformation. England's past as part of a once lofty mountain range is a reminder that even the calmest terrains can have explosive, mountainous origins, hidden just beneath our feet.
Lake Superior, the largest of North America's Great Lakes, holds the distinction of containing approximately 10% of the world's surface fresh water. This vast body of water spans 31,700 square miles, or 82,100 square kilometers, and is so massive that it holds more water than the other 4 Great Lakes combined. To put this into perspective, Lake Superior contains about 2,900 cubic miles, or 12,100 cubic kilometers of water, which is more than all of the water in the United States rivers combined. Its sheer volume makes it an essential part of the global freshwater supply, despite being just one of many lakes on Earth. This enormous freshwater reserve is incredibly important for both the ecosystems and the people living in the surrounding areas. The lake is bordered by Canada, specifically Ontario, to the north and the United States, including Minnesota, Wisconsin and Michigan to the south. Its waters are used for many purposes, including drinking water industry and recreation. The lake's surrounding basin is home to millions of people, making it a crucial resource for the nearly 3 million people who live along its shores. Additionally, its fresh water supports a rich variety of plant and animal life, with ecosystems that depend on its clean and abundant supply. Lake Superior's size and significance make it a key part of the Great Lakes Basin, which is the largest freshwater system in the world by total area. In fact, the Great Lakes are so large that they are sometimes referred to as the largest group of freshwater lakes on Earth. The water in Lake Superior is also known for its clarity. It is the clearest of the Great Lakes, with visibility of up to 40 feet, 12 meters in some parts, largely due to its low levels of suspended sediment. However, despite its vast size and volume, Lake Superior faces environmental challenges, particularly from pollution, invasive species, and climate change. Industrial activities around the lake, as well as agricultural runoff, have led to water quality concerns in some areas. Efforts are ongoing to preserve the water quality of Lake Superior and ensure that this freshwater treasure remains available and healthy for future generations. Its importance as a critical freshwater resource cannot be overstated, making its conservation vital for both local populations and the wider environment.
Alaska's coastline is a true marvel of nature, holding the title of the longest coastline of any state in the United States. Stretching an astonishing 33,000 miles, it surpasses the combined coastlines of all other U.S. states. This vast stretch of shoreline borders both the Arctic Ocean to the north and the Pacific Ocean to the south. In addition to this, Alaska's coastline includes numerous islands, fjords, and peninsulas, many of which are so remote that they remain largely untouched by human development. This expanse of land and water makes Alaska a crucial geographical location for marine life, trade, and indigenous cultures. The sheer size of Alaska's coastline has not only shaped its natural landscape, but also influenced its economy. The state's fishing industry thrives here, as the cold, nutrient-rich waters provide some of the best fishing grounds in the world. Alaskan king crab salmon and other fish species are integral to both the state's economy and local diets. Additionally, the coastline plays a key role in the state's shipping industry, serving as a vital route for transporting goods to and from the remote regions of Alaska. This maritime access is essential for connecting Alaska with the rest of the world, given its distance from the continental United States. Beyond its economic importance, Alaska's coastline is a living, breathing ecosystem that is home to an incredible variety of wildlife. From seals, whales, and sea otters to seabirds and fish, the diversity of life along the coastline is staggering. The cold waters of the Arctic and Bering Sea are particularly rich in nutrients, supporting massive populations of marine organisms. The state's coastal ecosystems are also vital for migratory species, including birds that fly long distances and whales that travel vast oceanic routes between Alaska and warmer waters. However, the remote and rugged nature of Alaska's coastline presents significant challenges for both residents and conservationists. The vastness of the coastline makes it difficult to protect and manage, with many regions being isolated and inaccessible. In addition to climate change and pollution, the coastline faces environmental threats from human activities such as oil drilling and commercial fishing. Despite these challenges, Alaska's coastline remains one of the last truly wild frontiers in the world, with efforts underway to protect its ecosystems and maintain the delicate balance between human use and environmental preservation.
Canada holds the impressive distinction of having the longest coastline of any country in the world, stretching more than 202,000 kilometers, or about 125,000 miles. This vast coastal reach is largely due to Canada's unique geography, which includes not only its mainland borders along the Atlantic, Pacific and Arctic Oceans, but also its more than 52,000 islands, such as those in the Arctic Archipelago, Vancouver Island and Newfoundland. This immense and diverse coastal environment makes Canada one of the most geographically rich nations on Earth. The sheer length of Canada's coastline gives rise to a remarkable range of climates, ecosystems and wildlife. On the Atlantic coast, you'll find rugged cliffs and fishing villages steeped in history, while the Pacific coast is lush, mountainous and known for its temperate rainforests and marine biodiversity. The Arctic coast, in contrast, is harsh and icy for most of the year, but supports uniquely adapted animals such as polar bears, walruses and narwhals. These coastal environments also play a critical role in the way of life for many indigenous communities, especially those in remote northern regions. Canada's coastline is not only ecologically important, but also economically vital. Coastal industries such as fishing, shipping and tourism are key contributors to the national economy. Ports like Vancouver, Halifax and St. John's are major hubs of international trade. The long coastline also means Canada has vast marine resources and rich fishing grounds, making the stewardship of these waters a major concern. In recent decades, Canada has increased efforts to protect marine environments through the creation of marine conservation areas and sustainable fishing practices. However, managing such a vast and varied coastline presents numerous challenges. Climate change is causing rising sea levels, increased coastal erosion, and threats to marine life, particularly in the fragile Arctic. Additionally, the remoteness of much of the coastline makes it difficult to monitor and protect against pollution, illegal fishing, and industrial development. Despite these hurdles, Canada's coastline remains a source of national pride and international significance, offering not just natural beauty, but also critical ecological and cultural value.
Tucked away near the bustling city of Naples lies one of the most powerful yet lesser-known volcanic regions in the world, the Campi Flegrei, or Phlegrean Fields. Unlike the dramatic peaks of Mount Vesuvius or Mount Etna, Campi Flegrei appears as a broad, low-lying area, dotted with steaming fumaroles, hot springs and calderas. Beneath this quiet surface, however, lies a supervolcano, a massive geological structure capable of eruptions far more powerful than any in recent human history. It's a place where the Earth's crust is thin and geothermal energy bubbles just below the surface. The Campi Flegrei has a violent history. Around 39,000 years ago, it unleashed one of the largest eruptions Europe has ever seen, the Campanian Ignimbrite eruption, which spewed enormous amounts of ash and gases into the atmosphere. This event may have triggered a volcanic winter and is even believed by some scientists to have played a role in the decline of Neanderthals in Europe. Since then, the region has had several smaller eruptions, with the most recent occurring in 1538, when a new volcanic cone, Monte Nuovo, was formed in just a few days. Today the area remains highly active geologically, showing signs of bradyseism, a phenomenon where the ground gradually rises or falls due to subterranean magma movements. This makes the region a focal point for volcano monitoring, as even small shifts could indicate a potential eruption. Because Campi Flegrei is surrounded by dense urban areas, including parts of Naples, an eruption could be catastrophic, both in terms of human life and economic impact. That's why the Italian government and global scientists have made monitoring this area a top priority. Despite its ominous potential, Campi Flegrei offers an incredible window into Earth's geological past and future. It's a natural laboratory for studying supervolcanoes and the immense forces that shape our planet. For travellers, it's also a unique place to witness the intersection of history, myth and science, where the ancient Romans once built bathhouses on hot springs and modern researchers install sensors to track volcanic unrest. Campi Flegrei is a vivid reminder that Italy's beauty is more than skin deep. Das den asti, dixen finus, das den geisti, kanja kaisi, das it demoventain dastis, das den seas, and thus it's a land shaped by powerful, often hidden forces.
One of the most recognizable trademarks of Mr. T, besides his mohawk and gruff voice, was his massive collection of gold chains. But what many people don't know is that these weren't just flashy fashion statements or props from a jeweler. In fact, many of the chains Mr. T wore originally came from fans and customers when he worked as a nightclub bouncer and bodyguard. Back in the late 70s and early 80s, he worked in some rough Chicago clubs where fights and altercations were common. After scuffles, he would often collect jewelry left behind or lost during the chaos, especially chains and other gold items. Rather than keep them in storage or discard them, he began wearing them as a way to make a statement, and it quickly became part of his larger-than-life image. Mr. T has said that the chains symbolized the struggles and status of the people he worked around, and he wore them almost like a badge of honor, paying homage to the environments he came from. Eventually, when he became a household name thanks to roles like B.A. Baracus in the A-Team and Rocky III, the gold chains became his signature look. At one point, the value of the chains he wore was estimated to be over $300,000. However, in a sign of personal respect and responsibility, After Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005, Mr. T stopped wearing the chains publicly, saying it felt inappropriate to flaunt wealth when so many were suffering. So while his gold chains might seem like pure bling, they actually carried a deep connection to his roots, his fans, and his personal code of honor.
Michael Jackson composed music for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Yes, the King of Pop really did work on music for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, but it was shrouded in secrecy for years. Back in the early 1990s, Michael Jackson was a huge fan of video games, and he had a working relationship with Sega. In fact, Sega had previously collaborated with him on the Moonwalker arcade and console games. When Sonic 3 was in development, Jackson was brought on board to compose tracks for the game, working alongside his team of musicians including Brad Buxer, a longtime collaborator and keyboardist. However, things took a turn when Michael Jackson was accused of child molestation in 1993, right around the time Sonic 3 was nearing completion. Sega, fearing public backlash, reportedly decided to distance the game from Jackson and removed his name from the credits. According to some reports, there was also dissatisfaction on Jackson's end with how the music sounded through the Genesis sound chip. He didn't want to be associated with what he considered low-quality audio output. But here's where it gets interesting. While Sega denied his involvement for years, numerous fans and music experts noticed similarities between tracks in Sonic 3 and Jackson's musical style. For example, the Ice Cap Zone theme bears a strong resemblance to a track Buxer co-wrote with Jackson called Hard Times. Other in-game tunes have been linked to songs like Stranger in Moscow, which came out after Sonic 3, suggesting MJ may have recycled unused music. In 2009, Brad Buxer confirmed that Jackson had indeed worked on the music for Sonic 3. Over time, several team members and developers also corroborated the story. So even though his name never appeared in the game credits, Michael Jackson's signature sound is embedded in Sonic 3's DNA. It's one of those fascinating intersections of gaming and pop culture that fans still geek out about to this day.
From the very beginning, Breaking Bad aimed to get the science as close to reality as possible, especially since the story centered around Walter White, a high school chemistry teacher who turns to cooking methamphetamine. To make this credible, series creator Vince Gilligan brought in real chemistry experts to consult on the scripts, the lab setups, and the terminology used throughout the show. One of the most well-known consultants was Dr. Donna Nelson, a chemistry professor from the University of Oklahoma. She volunteered her expertise to help ensure that the show's scientific aspects were as accurate and understandable as possible. Dr. Nelson reviewed scripts and provided feedback on the chemical processes depicted in the show, suggesting real reactions, correcting terminology, and even helping with lab safety practices. She worked closely with the writers to make sure that even when the show bent reality for drama, it still respected the boundaries of what was scientifically plausible. For example, while the exact purity of Walter's blue meth, a whopping 99.1%, is more symbolic than realistic, the chemistry behind many of the methods and materials he uses is rooted in truth. Nelson also helped actors understand the reactions they were mimicking, so they could appear convincing in their roles. Of course, the show didn't always stick strictly to reality. There were times when scientific accuracy was sacrificed for the sake of plot or cinematic effect, like the infamous scene where Walt uses fulminated mercury to create a dramatic explosion. In real life, this wouldn't have worked quite as cleanly or dramatically, but it was grounded in an actual chemical compound. The goal was never to create a how-to guide, but to present enough accurate science that the story felt believable without being bogged down by complexity. Interestingly, the show's commitment to chemistry even sparked increased interest in science among viewers. Teachers reported students becoming more engaged in chemistry classes, asking questions about reactions they saw on the show. Dr. Nelson herself said she was pleased that Breaking Bad helped bring science into pop culture in a new, albeit dark way. The show didn't glamorize meth production. It used science as a storytelling tool to explore morality, ambition, and identity. Thanks to its consultants and sharp writing, Breaking Bad achieved a rare feat in Hollywood, making chemistry thrilling, terrifying and emotionally powerful, all at once.
The launch of MTV marked a seismic shift in the music industry. On August 1st, 1981, at 12:01 a.m., the world witnessed the birth of a new era in music entertainment. This wasn't just another television channel, it was a revolution that would forever change how we consumed music. Video Killed the Radio Star made history. When MTV launched on August 1st, 1981, at 12:01 a.m., the very first music video it aired was Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. It wasn't just a catchy, synth-heavy song from the late 70s. It was a bold, almost prophetic choice. The song's message was all about how video and technology were changing the landscape of music, effectively eclipsing the golden age of radio. So when MTV, an entire television channel dedicated solely to music videos, chose that track to launch its new platform, it sent a clear, self-aware message. Music was entering a brand new era. The significance of Video Killed the Radio Star cannot be overstated. It symbolized the dawn of a new age, where visual elements became just as important as the music itself. This song encapsulated the transformative power of technology and set the stage for the future of the music industry. Interestingly, Video Killed the Radio Star wasn't chosen randomly. The founders of MTV, including Robert Pittman, wanted something symbolic to represent the network's disruptive arrival. The song, originally released in 1979, had been a moderate hit in the US, but was much bigger in the UK. Its futuristic lyrics, vintage video aesthetics, and theme of media evolution perfectly captured what MTV was about to do, revolutionize how music was consumed. Suddenly, music wasn't just about how it sounded, but how it looked. Image and personality were about to become as important as the music itself. The launch of MTV marked a seismic shift in the music industry. Artists who embraced the visual medium flourished, while those who didn't adapt struggled to maintain their popularity. It was a new era where the screen was just as important as the stage. By leading with that song, MTV signaled that it wasn't just a music platform, it was a cultural force. Overnight, artists who were visually compelling, like Madonna, Michael Jackson and Prince, gained an edge over those who weren't. The music video became not just a promotional tool, but an art form. And it all started with a quirky British band and a synth-pop track that predicted the future. What's even more wild, the Buggles themselves didn't become MTV superstars. Despite being the first face of the channel, they remained more of a one-hit wonder. In a way, they too were victims of the very media shift they sang about. Today, Video Killed the Radio Star is more than just a fun fact. It's a cultural milestone. It marked the beginning of the music video boom, which would dominate the 80s and early 90s. It also represents a time when the industry was radically shifting, something we've seen again with streaming platforms and social media. And although MTV eventually moved away from music videos, that first broadcast moment still resonates. It was bold, ironic, and brilliant, proof that sometimes pop culture really does understand its own impact in real time.
At the height of his fame in the 1910s and 1920s, Charlie Chaplin was the face of silent film comedy. His iconic character, the Tramp, with the bowler hat, toothbrush mustache, cane and waddling walk, became instantly recognizable all over the world. So recognizable, in fact, that lookalike contests started popping up, especially in the United States, where fans would compete to see who could best mimic Chaplin's character. It was meant to be fun and flattering, and it inspired one of the most ironic stories in entertainment history. According to Chaplin's own account and several stories that circulated for decades, he once entered one of these contests incognito, without revealing his identity, just for fun. The exact date and location have been debated. Some sources say San Francisco, others say a theater in California during a local fair, but the story goes that Chaplin genuinely wanted to see how he stacked up against imitators impersonating, well, him. Here's the punchline: he didn't even make it to the finals. In fact, depending on the version of the story, he either placed third or didn't place at all. The judges reportedly felt that his walk wasn't exaggerated enough, or that he lacked certain exaggerated features that imitators had leaned into. It's not hard to believe. Performers in contests often amp up gestures for theatrical effect, while the real Chaplin played the tramp with more subtlety and nuance. Ironically, it may have been his authentic performance that made him lose in a sea of over-the-top imitators. Chaplin himself supposedly found the whole situation amusing rather than offensive, and it speaks volumes about his humility and sense of humor. Whether or not all the details are perfectly accurate, the story has endured for over a century as a symbol of how fame, image, and perception can take on lives of their own. The idea that someone could be so famous that even they couldn't convincingly be themselves. That's comedy gold, and a reminder that even legends sometimes blend into their own shadows.
The Rock takes selfies seriously. In 2015, during the London premiere of his disaster movie San Andreas, Dwayne Johnson decided to do something a little extra for fans and ended up smashing a world record in the process. With the help of Guinness World Records officials, Johnson set out to take the most selfies in 3 minutes. And we're not talking casual, blurry crowd shots. Guinness has very specific rules. Each selfie had to be clearly focused, include full faces of both the Rock and the fan, and follow proper selfie framing standards. It was selfie hustle at the highest level. A crowd, a camera, and a clock. Fans lined up by the dozens for their moment with the Rock, who moved through the crowd with precision, flashing his signature grin and capturing selfies as quickly as humanly possible. Under the pressure of a ticking timer and strict judging, he ended up taking a staggering 105 selfies in just 3 minutes, averaging a photo roughly every 1.7 seconds. Guinness World Records verified the count on the spot and officially recognized him as the new record holder. The Rock's record-breaking energy. What made this so fitting is that Dwayne Johnson has always been about connecting with his fans. This record wasn't just about setting a quirky benchmark. It reflected how much he values interacting with his audience. And naturally, he shared the moment and plenty of the selfies online, giving his fans some major bragging rights. As legacy in the digital age. Although the selfie record has since been challenged by other celebrities like Donnie Wahlberg and James Smith, Johnson's accomplishment still holds a special place in Guinness lore because of the scale, fan energy, and his celebrity status at the time. It's a modern kind of world record, one that could only exist in the age of front-facing cameras and social media. But leave it to The Rock to turn something as ordinary as taking selfies into an official, historic achievement, smiling, snapping, and setting records. Just another day in the life of Dwayne Johnson.
The Night's Watch, the grim, black-clad guardians of the wall, are known for their rugged, practical look. Thick, fur-lined cloaks were a crucial part of their costume, designed to sell the harshness of life in the frozen north. But as epic and high-budget as Game of Thrones became, the costume department still had to get creative, especially in the early seasons when the budget wasn't yet massive. So, in true resourceful fashion, they turned to an unlikely source, IKEA. It turns out that IKEA's scold sheepskin rugs were just the right texture and weight to mimic thick fur cloaks. The costume team bought them in bulk, cut them up, dyed them darker, and distressed them to look like worn, battle-hardened outerwear. The rugs cost a fraction of what real fur or custom fabric might have, and once transformed, they blended perfectly into the show's gritty aesthetic. The best part, you would never guess watching the show that those cloaks began life on someone's living room floor. When this detail was revealed during a costume design panel hosted by the Getty Museum in 2016, fans went wild. The revelation went viral almost instantly. Even IKEA jumped in on the fun. They released a cheeky DIY guide showing customers how to turn their own rugs into Night's Watch-style cloaks. It was a brilliant example of how creativity and thriftiness can still thrive in a big-budget production, and how one of the most epic fantasy shows in television history was built on more than just CGI and dragons. This IKEA rug moment is a great reminder of the incredible work that goes on behind the camera. The costume department, led by Michelle Clapton, who also worked on The Crown, consistently delivered historically rich, believable looks that helped define each house and region in Westeros. Turning home goods into fantasy fashion is no small feat, and it shows just how much movie magic happens through craftsmanship, not just money. So next time you see Jon Snow brooding on the wall, just know he's probably wrapped in a living room rug.
The record holder for the longest movie ever made is a Swedish experimental film titled Logistics, created by Erika Magnusson and Daniel Andersson. It was completed in 2012 and has a total runtime of 857 hours, or 35 days and 17 hours, non-stop. But this isn't your average cinematic experience. It's more of a conceptual art piece than a narrative film. The creators weren't aiming to entertain in a conventional sense. They were making a statement about modern consumerism, production, and the invisible infrastructure that drives our global economy. But this isn't your average cinematic experience. It's more of a conceptual art piece than a narrative film. The creators weren't aiming to entertain in a conventional sense. They were making a statement about modern consumerism, production, and the invisible infrastructure that drives our global economy. The premise is deceptively simple. The film follows the entire journey of a pedometer from its point of sale all the way back through the supply chain to the factory where it was made in Bao'an, China. The premise is deceptively simple. The film follows the entire journey of a pedometer from its point of sale all the way back through the supply chain to the factory where it was made in Bao'an, China. But here's the twist, it's all filmed in real time. That means long uncut sequences of transport, handling, shipping and production. There are scenes showing cargo on trucks, ships moving through ports, time in storage and factory workers at their stations. The camera observes, but it doesn't comment, making viewers confront the sheer scale and monotony of the global logistics system. Watching Logistics isn't really about following a story, it's about immersing yourself in time and process. The creators were inspired by the question, where do gadgets come from? Watching Logistics isn't really about following a story, it's about immersing yourself in time and process. The creators were inspired by the question, where do gadgets come from? Instead of answering with a slick documentary, they responded with a durational meditative experience that forces viewers to literally feel the length of the journey. It challenges traditional storytelling and attention spans, and it's often categorized more as a piece of performance or installation art than mainstream cinema. Due to its extreme length, Logistics has mostly been shown in segments at art installations, film festivals, or via continuous projection in museums and galleries. It has been described as a slow film in the most literal sense, testing the patience of even the most committed viewers. It's not something you watch in one sitting or even in 10. Due to its extreme length, Logistics has mostly been shown in segments at art installations, film festivals, or via continuous projection in museums and galleries. It has been described as a slow film in the most literal sense, testing the patience of even the most committed viewers. It's not something you watch in one sitting, or even in 10, but its impact lies in its ambition. It's a monument to time, process, and the often unseen systems behind the things we consume every day.
Holy safety campaign, Batman. In the 1960s, as seatbelt laws and car safety awareness were just beginning to take off, public service announcements, PSAs, started popping up to encourage drivers and passengers to buckle up. One of the more memorable ones came from none other than Batman, specifically the version played by Adam West in the campy beloved Batman TV series that ran from 1966 to 1968. This wasn't the dark, brooding vigilante of later decades. This was the colourful, quip-slinging, law-abiding caped crusader who taught kids to do their homework and eat their vegetables. So naturally, he was tapped to promote seatbelt use too. In the PSA, Batman and Robin, Burt Ward, are seen rushing to the Batmobile for another crime-fighting adventure. As Robin excitedly starts the car, Batman stops him, not to check the Bat gadgets but to put on his seatbelt. Safety first, Robin. The message is clear, simple and humorous, playing off the character's wholesome image and the era's increasing concern with auto safety. The spot ends with a reminder to the audience, if even Batman won't drive off without buckling up, what's your excuse? This PSA worked because it blended entertainment with public safety messaging in a way that felt light-hearted, but still effective. Batman wasn't lecturing. He was leading by example, using his cool factor and moral code to model good behavior. At a time when many drivers still didn't consider seatbelts a priority, and some cars didn't even have them installed by default, this kind of cultural reinforcement helped normalize the idea that wearing a seatbelt was the responsible and even heroic thing to do. This wasn't the last time superheroes were used for public service campaigns. Over the decades, comic book characters have championed everything from anti-drug efforts to environmental causes. But the Batman seatbelt PSA stands out because of its simplicity and charm. It's been rediscovered and shared countless times online, becoming a nostalgic touchstone for both safety advocates and Batman fans. It's also a reminder that even the most extraordinary heroes care about everyday actions. And sometimes, saving lives starts with something as small as a click.
The Simpsons first aired in 1989, making it the longest-running American scripted TV series ever. That longevity has given its writers countless opportunities to joke about politics, technology, celebrities, science, and society. But what makes the show truly fascinating is how many of those jokes, sometimes throwaway gags, ended up coming true. From tech developments to political events, some of the show's moments feel like they were lifted straight out of the future. The most iconic one? Donald Trump becoming president. In the 2000 episode Bart to the Future, Lisa mentions inheriting a budget crisis from President Trump. It was meant as a ridiculous punchline at the time, but 16 years later it became reality, another eerie one. In 2012, The Simpsons showed a scene where Disney buys 20th Century Fox. And guess what happened in 2019? Yep, Disney bought Fox in real life. The show also predicted things like smartwatches, video calls, autocorrect fails, and even Higgs boson-like equations on chalkboards years before scientists confirmed them. The writers of The Simpsons have addressed this phenomenon, and most agree it's a mix of smart forecasting and the law of large numbers. When a show runs for over 30 years, makes hundreds of cultural jokes and hypothetical scenarios, some are bound to hit the mark eventually. But what makes it stand out is how specific some predictions have been. Not just general trends, but precise events and inventions. That's what keeps people fascinated and a little spooked. Ultimately, The Simpsons serves as a snapshot of our hopes, fears, and absurdities over time. It doesn't just predict, it reflects. Its ability to nail trends is a testament to the sharpness of its writers and their understanding of the world's direction. Whether it's forecasting censorship debates, political instability, or virtual reality tech, the show's track record has made fans constantly ask, what did The Simpsons say about this? It's not magic, it's satire at its sharpest.
Despite covering over 70% of Earth's surface, the ocean is still one of the least explored frontiers on the planet. According to NOAA, the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, more than 80% of the ocean has never been mapped, observed, or even seen by humans. That includes the vast deep-sea areas, underwater mountain ranges, trenches, and ecosystems that exist in total darkness, miles below the surface. Exploring the ocean is incredibly difficult. The immense pressure at deep depths can crush most human-made equipment without serious engineering. Light doesn't reach the deeper zones, making visibility nearly zero. Add to that freezing temperatures, complex terrain, and the sheer size of the ocean, over 360 million square kilometers, and it becomes clear why it's such a challenge. In fact, we've mapped more of the surface of Mars and the Moon than we have of Earth's ocean floor. What little we've explored has revealed an astonishing variety of life, some of it truly alien-looking. Deep-sea vents host entire ecosystems without sunlight, fish that glow in the dark through bioluminescence, and species that defy classification. Every expedition into the deep seems to uncover new species, many of which exist nowhere else. From shipwrecks to ancient underwater landscapes, the ocean holds countless secrets, some geological, some biological, some historical. Uncovering the mysteries of the ocean isn't just about curiosity. It has serious scientific, environmental, and even medical implications. Studying ocean ecosystems helps us understand climate change, discover new materials or medicines, and protect endangered marine life. The oceans play a vital role in regulating the Earth's atmosphere and weather. So the more we explore, the better we can protect this delicate and vital part of our planet.
That nostalgic, earthy smell of freshly cut grass isn't just a sign of a neat lawn, it's actually a silent scream. When grass is mowed or damaged, it releases a group of chemicals called green leaf volatiles, or GLVs. These airborne compounds are responsible for that distinct scent we associate with summer days and fresh lawns. But what they actually signify is something far more intense. The plant is in distress, sending out an SOS to its surroundings. These GLVs are part of the plant's defense mechanism. When blades of grass are torn, the plant interprets it much like an injury. The release of these compounds can warn nearby plants of potential danger, such as insect attacks or physical damage. In response, neighboring plants may start ramping up their own defenses, producing chemicals to deter pests or prepare for possible harm. It's a subtle form of communication, one that happens all around us, silently and chemically. Interestingly, some insects and animals have evolved to interpret these signals as well. For example, certain parasitic wasps are attracted to GLVs because they know those signals often mean a caterpillar or other herbivore is nearby, munching on the plant. So while we humans might enjoy the scent as a pleasant byproduct of yard work, in the natural world, it can set off a whole chain reaction of survival tactics. So the next time you breathe in that crisp green aroma, just remember, it's the soundless equivalent of grass yelling, "Something's hurting me." It's one of nature's most poetic and surprising distress signals, hiding in plain scent.
Scotland's famously unpredictable and often wintry weather has inspired something truly poetic. The Scots language has over 421 different words for snow. This abundance isn't just linguistic trivia. It reflects a deep, historical relationship between the Scottish people and their environment, where snow isn't just snow, but a whole spectrum of conditions, sensations, and experiences worth naming. Many of the words are beautifully descriptive and specific. For example, flindrican refers to a light snow shower, snawpowther describes fine, powdery snow, and skelf means a large, floating snowflake. There's even sneezel, which means to begin to rain or snow. These aren't modern inventions either. Many of them appear in historical texts, local dialects, and oral traditions passed down through generations. It's a linguistic reflection of the fact that in places where snow is frequent and varied, people naturally develop more nuanced ways to talk about it. This richness in vocabulary also speaks to the Scots language itself, which is distinct from English and has many regional variants. It's known for being expressive and deeply tied to the landscape. The plethora of snow words has even been officially documented and celebrated by institutions like the University of Glasgow, which created a Scots thesaurus to catalog and preserve this kind of linguistic heritage. In a broader sense, the idea that Scots have 421 words for snow mirrors a universal truth language often evolves in direct response to the natural world around us. Just as desert cultures have many terms for sand or Arctic peoples have detailed vocabularies for ice, the Scottish people's many words for snow remind us that our environment shapes how we think, feel, and speak.
Yes, you really can smell rain, and there's a fascinating science behind that fresh, earthy scent that rolls in with a storm. That distinct smell is known as petrichor, a term coined in 1964 by two Australian scientists, Isabel Joybert and Richard Thomas. They were the first to study the phenomenon in detail and name the compound responsible for this atmospheric aroma. Petrichor is the combination of several natural substances, but the most important ingredient comes from soil-dwelling bacteria. One key player is a compound called geosmin, which is produced by certain types of actinobacteria in soil. When the ground is dry, this compound builds up. Then, as rain begins to fall, the water hits the earth and causes the geosmin to become airborne in tiny aerosol droplets. Our noses are incredibly sensitive to geosmin. Even small concentrations can trigger a strong sensory response. That's why the smell of rain can seem so strong, especially after a long dry spell. Another contributor to the petrichor scent comes from plant oils that accumulate on surfaces like rocks, leaves, or soil. During dry periods, some plants release these oils as a survival tactic. When rain falls, those oils are released into the air along with the geosmin, blending together to create that signature pre-storm or just rained scent. Interestingly, the smell is often more noticeable when rain falls on dry ground than on damp or waterlogged areas. Beyond just being a pleasant scent, petrichor can actually trigger emotional or nostalgic responses in people. It's a sensory cue that ties to memories of renewal, change, and the calm that often follows a storm. So the next time you step outside and smell rain before it hits, know that your nose is detecting an ancient chemical process, and perhaps even nature's way of telling the world that refreshment is on the way. One of the most impressive and charming facts about Lego is that bricks made in the 1950s still fit perfectly with those made today. That's not just nostalgia, it's an intentional design philosophy built on consistency, precision, and enduring quality. When Lego introduced its now iconic plastic brick in 1958, it used a stud and tube coupling system that allowed for a tight, secure fit between pieces. This interlocking mechanism was so well engineered that it has remained virtually unchanged for over 65 years. That decision has paid off in a big way. The fact that older bricks still work with new ones means that Lego has created one of the most universally compatible toy systems in the world. You could literally find a Lego brick from the 1960s in a dusty attic and snap it into a brand new Star Wars set bought yesterday. This backward compatibility not only extends the life of the product, but also fosters creativity across generations. Kids, parents, and even grandparents can build together using bricks from their own childhoods. So, part of this consistency is due in large part to the extremely high manufacturing standards Lego maintains. Their bricks are molded with a tolerance of just 2 micrometers. That's actually less than the width of a human hair, ensuring every piece fits snugly without ever being too tight or, too loose. This kind of precision is exactly what makes Lego creations sturdy enough to be moved around or even displayed, yet still easy to take apart and, reimagine as something new. Beyond just being a fun fact, Lego's long-lasting compatibility has really become a symbol of the brand's philosophy, creativity that stands the test of time. It's not just about building blocks, it's about trust, reliability, and honestly, infinite possibility. Whether you're constructing a spaceship, a castle, or your own wild invention, those little plastic bricks are designed to last and to fit together forever.
One of the most fascinating quirks of the octopus lies within its own body. It has 3 hearts, and believe it or not, one of them stops beating when it swims. This isn't science fiction. It's a real biological feature that showcases just how unique and honestly alien-like octopuses truly are among Earth's creatures. Here's how it works. 2 of the octopus's hearts are known as branchial hearts, and their job is to pump blood through each of the animal's gills, where it collects oxygen from the surrounding water. The third, called the systemic heart, is the one that sends oxygenated blood from the gills to the rest of the body. So in essence, the octopus has a circulation system that's partially divided between gill function and full body supply, allowing it to efficiently manage oxygen in its watery world. Now, here's where it gets even stranger. When an octopus swims, its systemic heart actually stops beating. Scientists believe this is due to the physical exertion and pressure involved in its jet propulsion swimming method, which forces water through its siphon for fast movement. The systemic heart's pause during swimming temporarily halts the distribution of oxygenated blood to the rest of its body, which is part of why octopuses generally prefer crawling along the seafloor rather than swimming. It's less taxing and, more energy efficient. This quirky cardiovascular setup is just one part of what makes octopuses so biologically remarkable. Add in their blue copper-based blood, ability to regenerate limbs, and advanced problem-solving skills, and it's easy to see why many scientists consider them among the most intelligent and mysterious invertebrates alive. Their 3-heart system is more than a curiosity. It's a finely tuned adaptation to a life of stealth, agility, and deep-sea survival.
Your taste buds Those tiny sensory organs that help you experience flavor are constantly being replaced. In fact, the average lifespan of a taste bud is only about 10 to 14 days. That means your mouth is in a near constant state of renewal, with old taste buds dying off and new ones forming in their place. It's a fascinating little cycle that keeps your sense of taste sharp and adaptable. Each taste bud is made up of 50 to 100 specialized receptor cells, which detect the 5 basic taste categories: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. These cells work by sending signals to your brain through nerves, telling you what you're tasting. But like many other cells in your body, they undergo regular wear and tear from things like heat, chewing, spicy foods, and, well, just general aging. Because of this, your body replaces them often to maintain a functioning sense of taste. The regeneration process is influenced by several factors. Age, smoking, illness, medications, and even stress can affect how quickly your taste buds regenerate, or if they regenerate fully at all. For instance, smokers often experience dulled taste because nicotine can damage the taste buds and slow their regrowth. Similarly, people undergoing certain cancer treatments may temporarily lose their sense of taste because those therapies can harm the fast-replicating cells in the mouth, including taste buds. Interestingly, while the cells within a taste bud regenerate frequently, the overall number and sensitivity of taste buds can decrease over time, especially with age. That's one reason older adults often experience a change in how foods taste, particularly a diminished sensitivity to sweet and salty flavors. Still, thanks to this constant cycle of renewal, your sense of taste remains one of the most resilient and dynamic sensory systems in your body. So the next time you savor your favorite dish, you might just be using a whole new set of taste buds from the week before.
One of the more delightfully quirky facts from the animal kingdom is that a group of jellyfish is called a smack. While many animal groupings have poetic or unexpected names, like a murder of crows or a parliament of owls, the term smack stands out for its playful sound, especially when applied to such graceful, often ghost-like sea creatures. The origin of the word isn't entirely clear, but it's part of a long tradition in English, where animal groups were given collective nouns, often in the Middle Ages, that were more colourful or metaphorical than descriptive. Unlike more intuitive terms like herd or flock, words like smack were often coined for fun or to reflect some perceived trait of the animals. Some speculate that smack may be linked to the gentle, rhythmic smacking motion jellyfish make as they pulse through the water. Jellyfish themselves are mesmerizing and ancient creatures, having floated through Earth's oceans for over 500 million years, long before dinosaurs roamed. While they might look delicate and otherworldly, they can actually be quite dangerous depending on the species. Some deliver painful or even deadly stings. And when they gather in large numbers forming a smack, they can overwhelm fishing nets, clog power plant intakes, or even close beaches, turning what seems like a graceful sea ballet into a jellyfish invasion. Interestingly, a smack of jellyfish is just one term used. Other collective nouns include a bloom or swarm, particularly when referring to larger groups during seasonal gatherings. Still, smack remains the most whimsically charming, and it's a great example of how language adds a layer of character and curiosity to the natural world. So next time you spot a cluster of jellyfish drifting along the shore, you'll know you're witnessing a smack in action. Elegant, eerie, and oddly named.
The world's oldest known recipe isn't for bread, soup, or even wine, it's for beer, humanity's ancient elixir of choice. Dating back to around 5000 to 3900 BCE, this early recipe was discovered in a Sumerian hymn inscribed on a clay tablet known as the hymn to Ninkasi. Ninkasi was the Sumerian goddess of beer, and the hymn wasn't just a spiritual song, it was also a practical guide for brewing. This poetic recipe describes the process of fermenting bread made from barley to create a drink that was both nourishing and intoxicating. In essence, the Sumerians were baking a kind of barley bread called bapir, then crumbling it into water and letting it ferment into beer. The brew would have been thick, cloudy, and consumed with a straw to avoid the sediment, a far cry from the filtered lagers and ales of today. But it served an important role, not only as a source of calories and hydration, but also as a social and ritualistic centerpiece in ancient Mesopotamian life. Beer wasn't just a treat, it was central to daily living. Because water sources were often contaminated, beer with its alcohol content was safer to drink. It was consumed by men, women, and even children. Workers were sometimes paid in beer, and there were dozens of beer varieties brewed by different communities. The fact that the first recorded recipe in human history is for beer shows just how embedded it was in early civilization's structure. What's amazing is how this ancient tradition continues today. Modern brewers and archaeologists have tried recreating the Sumerian beer using the techniques described in the hymn, even crafting brews that mimic the cloudy, malty taste of the original. So in a way, every pint poured today carries echoes of a tradition that stretches back over 6,000 years. A reminder that brewing beer isn't just an art form, it's a historical thread connecting ancient and modern cultures, one fermentation at a time.
Deep in the dark, pressure-heavy depths of the ocean lives one of the most bizarre and captivating creatures known to science, the Barreleye fish, Macropinna microstoma. This strange species is best known for one jaw-dropping feature, its transparent, dome-like head through which you can clearly see its barrel-shaped eyes and internal structures. It's an evolutionary masterpiece adapted for survival in the deep sea's harsh, low-light environment. Discovered in 1939, but not photographed alive until 2004, the Barreleye fish lives at depths of around 600 to 800 meters, where sunlight barely reaches. For decades, its unique physiology baffled scientists. What looked like two eyes at the front of its head turned out to be nostril-like organs, while its real eyes are tube-shaped and set deep inside the transparent dome, giving it the appearance of a sci-fi creation rather than a real animal. These eyes can rotate both upward to spot prey silhouetted above and forward when it's feeding, allowing for remarkable visual precision in the pitch-black ocean. The see-through dome that encases the eyes is filled with fluid and acts as both a protective shield and a lens, helping the fish filter out ambient light and focus on bioluminescent prey. This adaptation gives the barreleye a serious survival advantage, allowing it to detect the faintest glimmers of light in its otherwise lightless environment, ideal for spotting jellyfish, small crustaceans and other drifting organisms in the deep. Despite its eerie appearance, the barreleye fish is only about 6 inches long and moves slowly and gracefully through the water, using its large, flat fins for stability. It's a reminder of how alien and undiscovered the deep ocean truly is, and how life down there evolves in ways that defy our expectations. The barreleye is a living example of nature's strange ingenuity, delicate, mysterious, and perfectly adapted to a world most of us will never see.
The idea that the universe has a smell, and that it's been described as similar to burnt steak or seared meat, is one of those strange, fascinating facts that connects the cosmos to our senses in an unexpected way. Of course, space is a vacuum, so there's no air for scent molecules to travel through like on Earth. But astronauts returning from spacewalks have consistently reported a distinctive metallic, smoky or burnt odor clinging to their suits and equipment after being exposed to the vacuum of space. This smell doesn't hit them while they're out in space, but rather once they return to the airlock of the spacecraft or space station and repressurize. When they remove their helmets, they often notice an unusual lingering aroma. Astronauts have described it in different ways, like burnt steak, welding fumes, hot metal, gunpowder, or even the scent that comes after firing a gun. NASA even enlisted scent specialists to recreate this smell for training purposes, so astronauts would be familiar with it before experiencing it firsthand. The source of this cosmic aroma is thought to be polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs for short, molecules that form when stars die in supernova explosions and during the combustion of carbon-based materials. These molecules are scattered throughout the universe, carried by interstellar dust and gas. Interestingly, PAHs are also found in everyday Earth experiences like grilling meat or burning coal, which explains the strange similarity in smell. In essence, the odor astronauts detect is a byproduct of high-energy reactions happening across the universe, kind of like the aftershocks of celestial fireworks. What's really cool is that this smell connects humans in space to the deep processes of the universe. It's as if the afterglow of exploding stars and ancient cosmic events leaves behind a chemical fingerprint, a scent trail lingering on the edge of human perception. So while we might never take a deep breath of space itself, thanks to astronauts and chemistry, we've caught a whiff of the universe's dark, fiery past. And surprisingly, it smells a lot like barbecue gone wrong.
Yes, it's true and kind of mind-blowing. Bananas are naturally radioactive, but don't worry, they're perfectly safe to eat. The radioactivity in bananas comes from their high levels of potassium, specifically the isotope potassium-40, which is naturally radioactive. Potassium is an essential nutrient that helps regulate fluid balance, muscle contractions, and nerve signals in the human body. A small portion of all natural potassium, about 0.012%, is the radioactive isotope potassium-40. And because bananas are rich in potassium, they carry a tiny amount of radioactivity. This radiation is so minimal that it's harmless. In fact, it's so minor that scientists use the concept of the banana equivalent dose as a fun, informal way to explain radiation exposure to the public. Eating one banana exposes you to about 0.1 microsieverts of radiation. Ta-tam! For comparison, a dental X-ray is around 5 microsieverts, and the average person receives about 2,400 microsieverts, or 2.4 millisieverts of background radiation per year just from natural sources like cosmic rays, radon gas, and even the ground. To put it into perspective, you'd have to eat around 10 million bananas at once to die from radiation poisoning. Long before that, you'd have serious potassium overdose problems. So despite their radioactivity, bananas are still a healthy snack and a great source of nutrients like vitamin B6, vitamin C, and dietary fiber. Interestingly, the banana's radioactive nature has even been used to illustrate concepts in nuclear physics and environmental science. Shipments of bananas have been known to trigger radiation sensors at ports and border checkpoints, not because they pose a danger, but because the sensors are just that sensitive. This also shows how even natural sources of radiation are all around us, not just in power plants or medical equipment. So yes, bananas are radioactive, but not in a way that should worry you. Instead, it's a quirky, fascinating example of how natural elements and nuclear science intersect in everyday life. Proof that the universe likes to sneak science into our snack time.
That's a beautifully simple and powerful analogy. If Earth were the size of a basketball, the Moon would be the size of a tennis ball about 25 feet away. It's a scaled-down model that helps us grasp the vastness of space and the actual relationship between the Earth and its closest celestial neighbour, the Moon. In reality, the Earth has a diameter of about 12,742 kilometres, or 7,918 miles, and the Moon is about 3,474 kilometres, or 2,159 miles, across roughly 27% the size of Earth. The average distance from the Earth to the Moon is about 384,400 kilometres, or 238,855 miles. These numbers are hard to picture, which is why this basketball-tennis ball model is such a helpful visualization. If we shrink the Earth down to the size of a standard basketball, about 24 centimeters or 9.5 inches in diameter, and scale everything down proportionally, the Moon would be around 6.4 centimeters or 2.5 inches in diameter, about the size of a tennis ball. At this scale, the average distance between them would be about 7.3 meters or 24 feet, roughly the length of a small room or a parking space and a half. This simple mental image instantly gives us a sense of how far the Moon really is in relation to its size and how empty the space between Earth and Moon truly is. Even more mind-blowing, in that same scale model, the International Space Station would be orbiting less than half an inch above the basketball's surface, and commercial jets would fly barely a fraction of a millimeter above. The Sun, on the other hand, would be a 26-foot wide sphere about the size of a small building over 2 miles or 3.2 kilometers away. This analogy also helps highlight just how impressive the moon landing was. Apollo astronauts had to travel what would be the equivalent of 25 feet in a straight line from a basketball to a tennis ball through total emptiness with 1960s technology. In space terms, the moon is close, but even close in space is mind-bogglingly far. So next time you're holding a basketball and see a tennis ball across the room, you're looking at a tiny model of our cosmic backyard and the vast stretch of nothingness that separates us from our lunar companion.
When two black holes collide and merge, they release a tremendous amount of energy in the form of gravitational waves, ripples in the very fabric of space-time. These waves, first predicted by Einstein's general theory of relativity, travel across the universe, carrying the signature of the cataclysmic event that created them. And here's where it gets really cool. While we can't hear gravitational waves with our ears, scientists have converted them into sound, and the result is a brief, high-pitched chirp. The first time we ever heard this cosmic chirp was in 2015, when the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, or LIGO, detected gravitational waves for the first time in history. The waves came from the collision of two black holes over 1 billion light years away. When the data was converted into audio frequencies, the sound resembled a short, ascending whoop, a quick, rising chirp that lasted just a fraction of a second. That simple sound marked the birth of a new era in astronomy. So why does it sound like a chirp? As the two black holes spiral toward each other, they orbit faster and faster, sending out gravitational waves at increasing frequency and amplitude. Right before they merge, the energy output spikes dramatically in what's called the inspiral and merger phase, which causes the pitch of the wave to rise sharply, like the sound of something speeding up just before impact. It's almost like a cosmic zip that ends in silence after the black holes become one. What's incredible is that this chirp represents a mind-blowingly violent event, the collision of objects with masses dozens of times greater than our sun, warping space-time itself. Yet when we translate that into sound, it's so gentle, so brief, just a soft little chirp in the cosmic night. It's the ultimate paradox, a titanic event rendered into something we can hear and comprehend, thanks to physics, technology, and a bit of creativity. Since 2015, dozens more gravitational wave detections have been recorded by LIGO and its European counterpart Virgo, giving us more chirps from different black hole mergers, and even one from a neutron star collision, which produced both a chirp and a flash of light, giving us both an audio and visual on a single cosmic event. These detections are helping scientists map out the universe in a completely new way by listening to it. So yes, if your ears were sensitive enough and adapted for gravitational waves instead of sound waves, you could hear the universe itself whispering through the cosmos, and black hole collisions, they'd sound just like a chirp in the dark.
Yes, it sounds completely counterintuitive, but it's true. You're technically closer to outer space standing at sea level near the equator than you are at the summit of Mount Everest. This fascinating fact is all thanks to the shape of the Earth, which isn't a perfect sphere but rather an oblate spheroid. That means it's slightly flattened at the poles and bulged at the equator due to the Earth's rotation. Because of this bulge, the equator sticks out farther from the Earth's center than any other part of the planet. So even though Mount Everest is the tallest point above sea level, standing at 8,848 meters or 29,029 feet, it's not the farthest point from the Earth's center. That title actually goes to Mount Chimborazo in Ecuador, which is only about 6,263 meters or 20,549 feet tall. Why? Because Chimborazo sits almost exactly on the equator, right where Earth's equatorial bulge is greatest. As a result, the summit of Chimborazo is over 2 kilometers, about 1.2 miles, farther from the Earth's core than the peak of Everest. Now here's the twist. Space is typically defined as beginning at the Kármán line, about 100 kilometers, or 62 miles above sea level. And while Mount Everest is certainly higher in altitude, it's still located roughly 27 degrees north of the equator, meaning it's actually closer to the center of the Earth than some sea level locations right on the equator. So if you're standing on a beach in Ecuador, Kenya, or Indonesia, your head is physically closer to space than someone standing on Everest, even if you're at zero elevation. This is one of those facts that turns our usual way of thinking upside down. We tend to imagine higher as always being closer to space, but on a rotating, slightly squished planet, geography, latitude, and physics all play a part. It also means the very definition of tallest mountain depends on your perspective. Whether you're measuring from sea level, from the center of the Earth, or all the way to space. So, next time you're near the equator, take a second to look up. You're a little closer to the stars than you might think.
When we say your brain can rewind time, we're not talking about time travel in the sci-fi sense. Instead, it refers to how your brain processes sensory information and how it can create the illusion of reversing or bending time, essentially editing reality after the fact to make sense of the world more smoothly. Instead, it refers to how your brain processes sensory information and how it can create the illusion of reversing or bending time, essentially editing reality after the fact to make sense of the world more smoothly. One of the most well-known examples of this is the flash lag illusion. In this experiment, when a moving object and a brief flash of light occur at the same time, people almost always perceive the flash as happening after the moving object has passed, even though they occurred simultaneously. What's happening is your brain is trying to predict motion, and it slightly delays the processing of the flash because it's unexpected. Then it rewinds and adjusts your perception so that everything fits more coherently, even if it means distorting the actual order of events. It's like your brain is buffering and editing a live stream of reality. Another strange effect is the cutaneous rabbit illusion, where rapid taps applied at different points on your arm can make you feel like a series of taps moved along your skin like a rabbit hopping. Your brain stitches the sensations together after the fact, giving you a coherent but entirely inaccurate story of what happened. This post-processing is your brain's way of keeping your conscious experience smooth, even when real-time data is messy or confusing. In essence, your brain operates on a kind of perceptual delay. It takes a fraction of a second, usually around 80 to 100 milliseconds, for your senses to gather data, for your brain to interpret it, and for you to become consciously aware of it. During that tiny window, your brain can compare inputs, predict what should happen, and even alter your perception of the past few milliseconds to create a seamless story. It's not time travel, but it's definitely a kind of subjective time editing. This ability likely evolved to help us survive, being able to predict danger, interpret fast motion, or make sense of rapid sensory input is crucial for reacting to the environment. But it also means that what you perceive as now is actually a slightly delayed, reconstructed version of reality, stitched together by a brain that's constantly analyzing, guessing, and sometimes rewinding.
This is one of the most poetic truths in all of science. The atoms in your body are billions of years old, and many were forged in the hearts of ancient exploding stars. In a very real, very literal sense, you are made of stardust. Let's break it down. Most of the matter in your body, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, calcium, iron and so on, didn't exist in the early universe. When the Big Bang happened about 13.8 billion years ago, it produced mainly hydrogen and helium, the two simplest elements. That was it. Heavier elements, the kind you need to build planets, plants, animals and people, were created later inside the fiery cores of stars through a process called nuclear fusion. Over millions to billions of years, stars acted like element factories, fusing lighter atoms into heavier ones. But those elements didn't just stay locked inside stars. At the end of their lives, massive stars explode in spectacular supernovae, releasing all those freshly forged elements into space. These explosions scatter carbon, oxygen, iron and all the other ingredients of life across the cosmos. That stardust floats through the galaxy, eventually clumping together to form new stars, planets and eventually life. Our solar system, including Earth, was born from one such cloud of debris about 4.6 billion years ago. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the carbon in your cells, all of it was created in stars that died long before Earth was even formed. The hydrogen in your body is even older, going back to the Big Bang itself. So, you're not only made of stars, you're made of the first materials the universe ever created. blended with the ashes of ancient stellar giants. This realization reshapes how we see ourselves. You're not just a product of biology and evolution, you're also a cosmic artifact, part of an unbroken chain of events stretching back to the birth of the universe. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, is powered by atoms with a history billions of years in the making. It's humbling, awe-inspiring, and deeply beautiful. You are the universe becoming aware of itself.
This is one of those quietly epic facts about our planet. The Earth's rotation is gradually slowing down, and in the far future, a day on Earth will be longer than 24 hours. In fact, it's estimated that in about 140 million years, a single day will last 25 hours. That's right, future Earthlings, or whatever life exists then, will experience longer days, not because of some dramatic event, but because of a slow, invisible tug-of-war playing out over eons. This gradual slowdown is mainly due to the gravitational interaction between the Earth and the Moon, a process known as tidal friction. The Moon's gravity pulls on Earth's oceans, creating tides, but because the Earth rotates faster than the Moon orbits, those tidal bulges are always just slightly ahead of the Moon. This creates a subtle drag, which transfers some of Earth's rotational energy to the Moon. As a result, the Earth spins a little slower, and the Moon slowly drifts farther away by about 3.8 centimeters, or 1.5 inches per year. Right now, the Earth takes about 24 hours to complete one full rotation, but this wasn't always the case. When the Earth was young, a day was much shorter, around 4 to 6 hours long. Over billions of years, it's been steadily slowing. Ancient fossilized corals, which laid down daily growth rings, reveal that hundreds of millions of years ago, there were over 400 days in a year, meaning days were shorter than they are now. The shift to a 25-hour day won't happen anytime soon. It's a slow cosmic process. By the time we get there, continents will have completely rearranged themselves, and life as we know it may have evolved or vanished entirely. Still, this gradual change reminds us that even things that seem constant, like the length of a day, are fluid on a geological timescale. It also highlights just how deeply interconnected everything in our solar system is. The Moon, though small, plays a massive role in Earth's rhythms, not just with tides, but with time itself. So the next time you glance at a clock or mark your calendar, remember, the way we measure time is literally a byproduct of celestial mechanics, and it's slowly but surely changing.
This fact beautifully captures the humbling vastness of our universe on a clear, dark night. You can see around 2,000 to 2,500 stars with the naked eye, but our own Milky Way galaxy alone contains more than 200 billion stars. That means you're only ever seeing a tiny sliver of what's really out there, less than a millionth of the stars in just one galaxy. The limitation isn't because those other stars aren't there, it's because our eyes aren't sensitive enough. Human vision can only detect light down to a certain brightness, so only the closest, largest or brightest stars appear visible to us without telescopes. Factors like light pollution, atmospheric conditions, and your own eyesight further reduce the number of stars you can see. Under ideal conditions, no light pollution, high elevation, and a perfectly clear night, you might catch a glimpse of up to 5,000 stars in total, but at any one time, only about half of those are above the horizon. Now zoom out. The Milky Way is a vast spiral galaxy stretching over 100,000 light-years across, with hundreds of billions of stars, many with planets, moons, and possibly even life. What we see as the Milky Way band in the night sky is actually just a side-on view of our galaxy's dense core, filled with billions of stars so tightly packed that their light blurs into a soft glow. You're not seeing the whole galaxy, you're seeing a crowded street lamp-lit alley of it. Even more mind-bending? The Milky Way is just one galaxy among perhaps 2 trillion in the observable universe. That means the total number of stars in the universe is estimated to be around 1 septillion, a number so big it's practically incomprehensible. And yet, from Earth, we see only a few thousand pinpricks of light, giving us the illusion of a quiet, still sky. This contrast between what we can see and what actually exists is a reminder of how limited our perception is, and how much of the universe remains hidden from our direct view. But it's also inspiring. Every one of those stars you can't see is a sun in its own right, possibly with its own system of planets. And maybe, just maybe, other beings staring up at their own sky wondering the same things.
This one taps into a phenomenon we all feel but rarely understand. Time seems to speed up as we get older. Summers fly by, years blur together, and before we know it, entire decades feel like they've passed in a blink. But why does this happen? One of the most compelling explanations is rooted in proportional perception. The idea that each year feels shorter because it represents a smaller fraction of your total life. Think of it like this. When you're 5 years old, a single year is 20% of your entire life, a huge chunk of time in your personal timeline. Everything feels new, every experience is fresh, and your brain is constantly forming new memories. That's why time in childhood feels expansive. The days are packed with novelty, and your brain is absorbing everything at full speed. But by the time you're 30, a year is only about 3.3% of your life. At 50, it's just 2%. Because each year is a smaller piece of the puzzle, it feels like less time in comparison. Your mind starts to compress time, not just mathematically, but psychologically. And as routine takes over and novelty fades, your brain forms fewer unique memories. Another reason why time seems to pass more quickly. Days filled with repetition and routine don't register as deeply as the novelty of childhood experiences, making time feel like it's slipping away. There's even a name for this line of thinking. The ratio theory of time perception. It's not just a poetic idea, it's grounded in cognitive science. Our brains seem to perceive the passage of time in a logarithmic, not linear fashion. In other words, time doesn't feel like it ticks evenly. It feels like it compresses as we age. This can sound a bit bleak, but it also has a silver lining. We can slow down our perception of time by injecting novelty into our lives. Traveling to new places, learning new skills, changing routines, and even being more mindful can make time feel richer and fuller. In a way, you can stretch your experience of time not by changing the clock, but by changing how you fill your hours. So the feeling that time speeds up isn't a trick or a flaw, it's a natural mathematical consequence of aging. But it's also a quiet reminder to stay curious, stay engaged, and keep making memories that matter.
Thank you for watching. We hope these mind-blowing facts left you amazed and inspired. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell because there's plenty more where that came from. Stay curious and we'll see you in the next one.